Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Luffy Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Luffy Ace Dimension traveled and met their twins. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. There are a few places that reality seems to bend. Playgrounds at night, empty schools, the second level of double-decker buses, hospital waiting rooms, and dimly lit roads that lead home. Ace, 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 Ace. The voice of Luffy complains from the back of the car. Ace glares into his rearview mirror, watching his brother struggle in his seatbelt. He can feel the back of his seat being kicked repeatedly, and damn if it didn't grate on his nerves. Shut up, Ace hisses, pushing Luffy's face back into the back seat when he tries to climb into the front. I'm trying to drive. This road is relatively dangerous, especially at night, always twisting and turning. Ace has a hard time keeping up with it normally, but when darkness takes over the skies, all he can see is the glow from his headlights. He doesn't need his smiling younger brother up in his face, creating a distraction. Luffy, sit down. He finally snaps, not taking his squinting eyes off the curving road. He hates this road more than anything. However, Luffy and him both know this is the fastest way to their small subdivision in the city. They usually avoid it, but after a long day, Ace really just wants to go home as fast as he can and sleep. Luffy fusses a bit in the back. Ace can hear his brother mumbling and cursing as he tries to untangle the seatbelt that he has somehow twisted himself in. You're a party pooper, Luffy says, after about a minute of silence. Sorry, Ace says, not sorry at all. Most car rides are worse than this, but would it really hurt his brother to stay in one place for 20 minutes? When are we going to get there? Luffy complains once again. Ace loves his little brother dearly, but he was the single most annoying person in the world when he wanted to be, which, unfortunately, is the majority of the time. Luffy, he keeps both hands on the steering wheel and resists the urge to whirl back and glare at his brother. Let me drive. I don't want you getting hurt, so sit down. And just like that, his little brother is in his seat, looking out the window like nothing happened. You're going to be the death of me, Lou, Ace sighs. Don't say that. Luffy protests, pout on his face. He looks so much younger than a junior in high school should. I can't see your face, Luffy, so it doesn't matter how much you pout, Ace reminds him. Silence covers the car once and Ace hums in pleasure. With Luffy around, everything is loud. It's nice once in a while to be able to sit and enjoy each other's company without the constant chatter. Suddenly, something in Ace's gut squeezes painfully. He squints out the front windshield when an ominous feeling starts to overtake the car. Even though no one else is on the road, Ace feels his stomach drop. Everything is quiet, like the world was holding its breath. Whatever is about to happen, Ace does not want to be a part of it. Some may call him paranoid, but Ace calls it instinct. Ace's instincts helped him when he lived on the streets, and they've always been right. Luffy shifts in the seat behind him, and Ace can tell Luffy can feel it as well. Even though Ace told him not to, Luffy pops his head in the front of the car. He wears a heavy frown, an expression rarely found on his face. His voice is no more than a whisper when he speaks. Something's off. Ace, what's wrong? I don't know. Ace replies honestly. His stomach drops even more now that he knows Luffy can feel it too. Something like this is never a good sign. The last time they felt like this, Luffy almost died. He isn't too keen on repeating that experience. Luffy, sit down. I have bad feeling about this. Luffy nods and his head disappears behind the seat. Ace hears the click of the seat belt as it slips into place. It's quiet, too quiet. Ace is about to force himself to relax when it happens. A large, glowing shape appears, blocking the road. It's translucent and shifts slightly in form, but no matter how it changes, it still blocks the one-way road. It doesn't look real, but an Ace would think he were dreaming it up if he couldn't hear Luffy screaming a warning behind him. He doesn't even have the time to turn the wheel or hit the brakes before their car rams into the shape. Ace hears the sickening crunch of their metal car folding like a soda can. Then something flashes before his eyes. For a brief second, he swears he can see a hand made of lava coming towards him, aimed straight at his chest. The world goes black around him. Thank you for loving me. Ace, we need to live a life without regrets. I only have one regret, that I couldn't see you fulfill your dream, but I'm sure you can do it, because you're my brother, and someday, bearing the weight of all those centuries upon his back, a man will come forth to challenge this whole world to a fight. Sengoku, you are living in fear of that great battle that will someday engulf the entire world. When somebody finally finds that treasure, the world will be turned upside down, and someone will find it. One Piece does exist. Ace jerks up in his bed, startling the two people next to him. He ignores both of them, trying to calm his raging breathing. He's covered in cold sweat as the words he swears he heard are replaying in his mind. What the fuck? Ace. Ace is jerked out of his thoughts as a body slams into his. Ace yelps in surprise and pain as he tries to pry the man off of himself. He can hear deep, relieved laughter, but he can't see who it's coming from. Ace's gut twists as the words from his dream echo around his head. Thank you for loving me. He knows that voice. It's his voice. Those words have never left his mouth, yet they seemed so real, so full of pain and relief, like this person, him, whoever, really thought that no one loved them before that moment. Ace definitely doesn't feel that way. Arms tighten around his waist and someone babbles words into his ear. Ace flinches before realizing who it is. Get off of me, Thatch, Ace sighs. He feels the weight lift off him, revealing a grinning Thatch and a smirking Marco. Why were they here? Another, more important thought hits him. Where is he? He doesn't recognize the white walls that surround him, nor the uncomfortable bed that he is currently laying on. You're in the hospital, Marco says, catching the look on his face. Ace turns, giving him a blank stare. You don't remember. You were in an accident. You guys were in pretty bad shape when they brought you here. Ace, you're lucky to be alive. We rushed over as soon as they called. You made us worry for a while, Ace. Thatch grins at him, but it fades. Luffy woke up last night, but the doctors won't let him see you. He was pretty hysterical, claiming that he heard some weird voices and needed to talk to you. Of course, the doctors didn't like that he was hearing voices and gave him some medication. He hasn't woken up after that. The fact that Luffy had heard voices too unnerves Ace even more. Something's up, and Ace wants to get to the bottom of it, so Luffy's okay. Ace gets 2 nods in response and he lets out a breath of air that he didn't know he was holding in. He's sure now what he remembers of the crash, the glowing wall. The vision, the voices must have been a weird dream. Thank God. What happened back there? Thatch and Marco exchange glances before Marco speaks up, running his hands through his hair. We don't know, actually. Ace's frown deepens. What do you mean? There was no one there, Ace. Nothing at all. The damage to the car made it look like you hit a wall or something, Ace. It couldn't have been caused by hitting a tree or deer, but your car was in the middle of the road. Ace's feeling of discomfort worsens as Marco continues. The police think it might have been a hit and run, but they couldn't confirm anything. It happened around 3 nights ago, so you've been unconscious for a while. Did you piss anyone off recently? Know anyone that might want to murder you? I've pissed off more people than I can count, but I don't think any of them would want to murder me. Ace sighs. Where's Luffy? Can I see him? I think he's sleeping. Thatch says, I mean, it's too quiet. If he were awake, you'd hear the yelling. Besides, you really need to rest. You've got a few bruised ribs and a hell of a lot of cuts and burns. I want to go see Luffy, Ace says stubbornly. His friends look at him with that look. Ace doesn't care, though. He needs to talk to Luffy about those dreams. They bother Ace. He knows they mean something and he is not about to sit around and wait for another surprise. After not getting any responses from his friends, he rips out his IVs and swings his legs over the side of the bed. He fully intends to reach his brother even if it hurts him even more. Thatch and Marco immediately protest and rush to push him back in his bed. Ace, what the hell are you doing? Marco says. He puts a hand on Ace's shoulder and forcibly pushes him back into his bed. You need to rest. Now's not the time to be stubborn. Yeah, Thatch agrees as he grabs Ace's feet and places them back on the bed. You need to calm down. We'll talk to Luffy for you, Kay. What did you want to say to him? Ace glares at both of them, but since they've known each other for years, the glare lost its effect a long time ago. You can't laugh, Ace sighs, giving in. He hates feeling bedridden. He hates people looking down on him while he was sick or injured, at all. This needs to get to him word for word. All right. Thatch's smile returns and he holds his hands up in surrender. I promise we won't laugh. What do you want to tell him? Ask him if he recognized any of the voices, Ace says slowly, never taking his eyes off of Thatch. And if he does, make him tell you who they are. Thatch looks surprised but, as promised, doesn't laugh. He rushes out the door to talk to Luffy. Ace's eyes follow his every moment until the door slams shut, and a silence overtakes the duo. Marco's gaze lingers on the door just like Ace's. Marco is the first person to break the silence. So, what did you hear? I don't know. Just a bunch of meaningless shit. Yet it's still bothering you, Marco points out. You going to tell me anything? I could, Ace says honestly, but I'm confused and frustrated and I've got this horrible feeling in my gut that won't go away. Something's about to happen, Marco. Something big. I can tell. The car crash and the voices are just the start. Voices, Marco muses. Do you recognize any of them? I don't recognize any of them, Ace says, shaking his head as his gaze flickers out the window. He doesn't remember them very much now, but I feel as if I've heard them before. Those words weren't random. So, are you going to tell me? Marco asks, or are you going to keep me guessing? I don't remember all of them, Ace says, not taking his eyes off the window. I know someone called my name. There were a few talking about regrets, I think. Someone said thank you for loving me. Any others? Yeah, Ace frowns, but they don't make much sense. One was talking about challenging the world to a fight, and something about Sengoku, I think, whoever that is. And the last one was just, One Piece does exist. One Piece, yeah, Ace sighs. Marco, I don't know what's happening. Nothing good, Marco agrees. But why ask Luffy about it? For confirmation. If Luffy is having the same dreams I am, then I can rule out coincidences. There's something messing with us. Marco snorts at that. Oh yeah, what is it then? He asks. I don't know, but I have a feeling that it isn't going to be anything like we're used to. I'm bored, Luffy complains as he flops onto the couch. They had been released from the hospital a day ago, but the doctors gave strict orders not to do anything strenuous while their wounds heal. Marco takes this time to lock Ace in his room and practically tie him to the bed frame so he can't move. Ace is pretty sure that Marco and Thatch are quietly laughing about it behind his back. Can't do anything about it, Lou, Ace says, completely bored himself. There's nothing on the TV and all his other friends are still at the shipyard. While he appreciates Marco and Thatch watching over him and keeping him company, he knows that they have lives outside of this. Ace is pulled from his thoughts by someone ruffling his hair. He bites back a venomous response. Stop that, he says, jerking his head away from the hand. Thatch starts laughing. You look pathetic, lazing around on the couch like that, Thatch says, though he Ace both know Ace would do anything else if he weren't confined to bed rest. Thatch seems insistent on rubbing it in. Luffy grins at him from the other side of the couch. Ace is moping. I don't want to hear anything from you, idiot. You're in the same position I'm in. Ace, quit picking on your little brother, Marco says as he walks from the guest room. He doesn't have a shirt on and has a toothbrush in his mouth. Marco's making himself at home. He started it, Ace grumbles. Oh, Mama Mark has arrived, Thatch says with a laugh as he disappears into the kitchen. With how much Ace's stomach has been growling, he hopes Thatch is making breakfast. Luffy, stop antagonizing Ace, Marco says and takes the toothbrush out of his mouth. Just turn on the TV or take a nap. Ace and Luffy look at each other in panic at the word nap. Every time Ace tries to get even a small amount of sleep, his dreams are filled with blood and explosions and fire. He always wakes up feeling disoriented and terrified. Yesterday, Luffy had dubbed both sleep and nap taboo words that were not to be said in the house. No naps, Luffy says and Ace nods his head in agreement. Thatch pops his head out from the kitchen. You guys have barely gotten any sleep since you've been discharged. Why aren't you sleeping? Thatch asks, concerned. Nightmares, Luffy says, they're awful. There's always a bunch of screaming and blood. And these weird people will show up every once in a while that looks like someone me or Ace know. I saw you once, Marco, and I've seen Ace. There's also Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, and Brook. Except Frankie looks really weird. Chopper's a reindeer, Robin is old and Brook is a skeleton. Ace blinks once. He never has dreams that strange. He has seen his friends in his dream, mostly Marco, sometimes Thatch. Voyage is there, tall and proud and larger than any human ever should be. There's a whale ship in blue oceans until suddenly he's somewhere else, high above everyone and watching them die on a bloody battlefield. You've got quite the imagination, Marco says, but otherwise doesn't react. It's not our imagination, Ace mutters in defense of his brother. He doesn't say it loud, but Marco still hears it. Marco raises an eyebrow in his direction. Then what is it, Ace? Hell if I know. They fall into an uncomfortable silence. Luffy turns his attention to the TV and is quickly glued what's on. Ace tries to watch, if only to keep his mind off of his dreams, but quickly loses interest. Instead, he looks out the window, only to see dark clouds forming overhead. Ace frowns. 5 minutes ago it was nice and sunny without a cloud in the sky. Since when did weather change so fast? Marco notices it at the same time and sighs, leaning with his back against the countertop. Looks like it's going to storm soon. Yeah, Ace agrees. Hey, Lou. Ace holds his hand out. Can I check the weather really quick? No, Luffy says stubbornly and holds the remote away from Ace. Ace, not in the mood, swipes the remote out of his hands. Luffy cries out, lunging forward, but Ace holds the remote up teasingly. Luffy puffs out his cheek and huffs. Ace clicks the channel button just when a large rumble of thunder makes the whole house shake, startling its inhabitants. Rain pelts down on the windows and a flash of lightning streaks through the sky. Ace stares out the window in amazement, not expecting it to hit them that fast. That came out of nowhere, Marco says as he walked towards the couch Ace was on and flung Ace's legs off so he could sit. Another rumble of thunder was heard and this time it was Thatch that came into the living room, probably thinking that the brothers did something. Thatch whistled from somewhere in the kitchen as his voice calls out, was it supposed to storm today? Ace sighs and leans back against the couch, closing his eyes. He feels exhausted, yet he doesn't sleep. Something in his gut is telling him to wait just a bit longer, as if something were going to happen. He listens to the rain pounding on the outside of his house, wind knocking over the trees. There's a soft whistling coming from the outside, almost humming, as if. Sometimes the blood rushes to my head and I feel like, if I run, I'll lose something important. Ace's eyes shoot open. That's his voice. It's the same voice that comes out of his mouth every morning. And it's the same voice that uttered the words, "Thank you for loving me." There's an image in his mind, a figure standing tall and proud with a purple tattoo on his back. He's surrounded by fire and enemies are approaching, but he doesn't seem worried. Ace doesn't know who this person is, because it sure as hell isn't him, but whoever they are, they need to get out of his head. It's then that he notices the silence in the house. Even Thatch's humming from the kitchen stops. He looks around and, for the first time, he notices everyone staring at him, wide eyes. Luffy says, looking at him. Ace, did you say that? Then it clicks. They all heard that voice. No, Ace answers. His body stiffens as he realizes something. He and Luffy had heard these kinds of things before, but Marco and Thatch had never heard what they heard. Marco, Thatch, did you hear that too? Ace asks them, shifting his position on the couch to look at them. Slowly, the two of them nod. Is this what you and Luffy were talking about? Thatch asks, these voices, compared to the righteous greed of the rulers, the criminals of the world seem much more honorable. When scum rules the world, only more scum is born. There it is again. Though this time, it's a new voice that Ace doesn't recognize. Marco and Thatch look as lost as Luffy and Ace feel. He never hears the voices unless he was asleep. Those came with dreams, giant ships, laughing people, a war, blood, death. The dreams always end in death. No matter how happy or how sad, there is always something wrong. Pirates are evil. The Marines are righteous. These terms have always changed throughout the course of history. Kids who have never seen peace and kids who have never seen war have different values. Those who stand at the top determine what's wrong and what's right. This very place is neutral ground. Justice will prevail, you say. But of course it will. Whoever wins this war becomes justice. Pirates, Thatch says quietly, his voice shaking. He slowly inches his way in the living room with everyone else. What the hell is it talking about? We don't know, Luffy says as he glances at Ace. But I feel like something is trying to warn us. Thatch tenses. Yeah, I had that feeling too. But I still don't get it. You want to keep everyone from dying. That's naive. This is war. People die. That's Luffy's voice, Marco hisses. Luffy looks startled. I wouldn't say anything like that. I'm not even in a war. Protecting what we cherish most as men is the reason why we formed this pirate crew. Then, before anyone can comment, another scream rips through the air. One sounding so broken, so full of pain that Ace wants to cover his ears. To make it even worse, he knows exactly who the voice belongs to. I can't even save even one of my nakama. Then lighting flashes, lighting up the room before the power shuts off, leaving everyone in darkness. Is everyone okay? Thatch's voice fills the dark room. Ace looks around frantically, but he can only see the outlines of the others around him. The storm only lets off a little light, not enough to see everyone's expressions. The only reason Ace knows who's who is height differences. Ace rubbed the back of his head as Marco calls out, "We're fine. It's just a power outage. I don't think any of us were injured." Yeah, Thatch mutters. But still that scream. Luffy shifts on the couch next to Ace and says, I don't want to talk about that. This is terrifying. Marco says and Ace agrees. Storms, voices, and darkness. What could possibly go wrong? It's like the start of a bad horror film. Ace sighs, thinking back to the scream. The scream sounded so much like Luffy, and the worst part is Ace doesn't know why. Why would these ghosts, voices, something else, sound so much like Ace and his friends and family? Why them? The lights flicker back on, making Ace's eyes sting from the sudden brightness. He shades his face with his hands and surveys the room once more, making sure everyone is okay. Shit, Thatch says, pressing both of his hands to the window. He waits for a few seconds, listening. I think the voices stopped. Friends or foes? That's something you'll have to decide on your own. And the universe loves proving me wrong. Thatch sighs, turning his body around to face everyone in the living room. Should we go to a hotel or something? That didn't help us before, Ace mutters. His heart is beating so loud that it echoes in his ears and he's sweating. Everything about this was absolutely terrifying. I think something is going to happen. He must be hurting so much right now. I should be with him when he's hurting. That's what friends are for. Luffy. Everyone's eyes go directly to Luffy, who's blinking in confusion. Their mystery voices know me. Luffy puts a hand to his chin in thought. But the mystery voice said I was in pain. Are you in pain? I'm scared, Luffy says. But I'm not in pain. The room is quiet now. No new voices echoed through the occupants' heads and there was no more screaming. They wait a minute, then 5, then 10. There is no sound except the beating on rain on the windows and the rumble of thunder. Did it stop? Marco asks as Ace still tries to calm his racing heart. Thank God. Thatch puts a hand to his chest as he tries to calm his breathing. Marco is doing the same, but not as dramatically. Even though Ace won't admit it to anyone, he finds himself wrapping the blanket that covered him tighter around his shaking body. I don't think it's over, Luffy says suddenly. I think it was just the beginning. Ace is right. Something is going to happen. Whatever that was, it was just a warning. Fuck, Thatch says. It's probably just a prank, Marco says, ever the voice of reason. Your neighborhood has always been rowdy, Ace. Maybe they did something to the house. But me and Luffy heard these voices when we were in the hospital. Ace argues and shakes his head, not matter how much he wishes it's true. There's no way that they could have done something like this. And it doesn't make sense. Why say a bunch of nonsensical words with our voices? It's from another world, Luffy interrupts. They all stare at him, causing him to shift uncomfortably. But Luffy understands the silent question. How? I had a dream. Noticing the disbelieving glances, Luffy quickly adds, I'm not kidding. But it wasn't like the ones that me and Ace usually have. It was a battle, but it was different. I could hear and understand what the people were saying. Did you recognize the people? Thatch asks. Luffy looks uncomfortable, shifting and not meeting any of their eyes. One of them was me, but he was older, I think. And he had this really big scar on his chest, like an X. Luffy traces the spot on his chest. The other man was that guy. It was on the news. Torch, team, teach. Marco asks and Luffy nods. Known mafia boss. He had a nasty reputation for getting what he wanted. He's been the cause of numerous deaths in the city and was still at large. The police couldn't touch him with how many people working for him. Me and that guy were fighting and it was really fast. Then Teach commented about Ace's death or something like that. Then other me was really pissed off and told him that he was a traitor and the reason that Ace was dead and everything, which was really confusing because Ace isn't dead and he's sitting right there and I wanted to yell at him but I couldn't move my body at all. Thatch ruffles Luffy's hair. You're getting off track, buddy. Luffy blinks before he slowly nods. Other me attacked him and then there was a lot of screaming and blood and insults, but I couldn't really make out anything until both of them jumped back looking really tired and beat up. Other me was really pissed. Then Teach told other me that he was going to put me out of my misery and reunite me with my brother. I woke up after that. To say that Ace is unnerved is an understatement. It isn't because Luffy had a dream like that. No, that dream only proves something that Ace doesn't really want it to be proved. The lines "thank you for loving me" have been bothering him since he first heard them. Now he knows why. Those words were his last words he had said to his brother in those dreams. Ace isn't really sure how he knows this, but it seems to fit. Like a missing piece of the puzzle was finally put in place. Thunder blasts and shakes the whole house, reminding Ace of the raging storm. A quick glance out the window has Ace believing that the storm looks like it's getting worse. Rain pelts even harder and lightning flashes more frequently. Just thinking about how much damage this storm is going to cause makes Ace's head hurt. He doesn't want to be cleaning branches from the front lawn. What he doesn't know at the time is this storm is going to cause a lot more trouble than he thinks. Marco picks up the TV remote and tries clinking the power button, only to get static. Looks like the storm took out your satellite, Ace. What do we do now? We're hearing voices, Thatch says with a sign. I don't think we shouldn't tell anyone about this. Ace says, just a gut feeling. Yeah, Luffy agrees. It's our secret. Marco and Thatch agree just as the power goes out again. Luffy yelps in surprise, but Ace is expecting it. The lights were flickering on and off right before it happened, so it isn't that surprising. What is surprising is the voice that follows. If you were to go on a trip, where would you like to go? Ace blinks once before realization hits him. He does not want to deal with this again, especially in the dark. His friends and brother groan, probably thinking the same thing. Lightning flashes through the shut curtains, and another rumble of thunder shakes the house. The voices, however, do not continue. Ace's eyes narrow suspiciously. What the hell? I don't can, Thatch started to say, before he was interrupted by the storm. A bright light shoots through the window, shattering the lights and any other glass around the living room. Thatch yelps, but is too slow to do anything other than watch as the streak completely destroys everything. When it stops, the only thing left in one piece is the window that it came from. The jaw-rattling boom isn't what Ace is expecting as an after effect. Thunder shakes the house more violently than ever before. Ace hears Luffy scream, but he can't help his brother now. His hands fly to his ears, trying to muffle the sound, but it ends just as quickly as it came. Silence floods the room as everyone tries to process what just happened. Lightning, Ace realizes with a surprised jolt. Lightning had just invaded his living room. That honestly doesn't make him feel any better. Is everyone all right? Ace calls, jumping to his feet as fast as he can. He squints through the darkness, but can only make out the outlines. Yeah, two other voices, Marco and Luffy, call back to him. He hears Thatch cursing, so he assumes that the red-headed is okay as well. Ace runs his hands through his hair, assessing as much damage as he can in the dark. It's then that he notices the two new bodies in his living room. By the time the power flickers back on, everyone already notices their guests. Luffy is interested in them to say the least. But Ace refuses to let him get near the unmoving bodies. Because, seriously, how the hell do two bodies just appear in their living room? What the fuck? Thatch says and repeats the phrase over and over again. Ace agrees with him silently, ignoring the way his heart seems to be lodged in his throat. He can't see any features, both face down on the floor and covered in scars and cuts and bruises. One is wearing a red cardigan and blue shorts, with bruises covering every inch of his body. His cardigan is singed on the edges and every inch of his body is covered in a layer of dirt. He is snoring loudly, but otherwise doesn't seem to be in any pain. The other body is taller, with no shirt and a nasty scar on his back. On the edges of the scar are little purple marks. Ace thinks it might be a tattoo, but whatever was once there is completely destroyed by now. Luffy struggles out of Ace's grip, jumping up from the couch to walk over to the unwelcomed visitors currently unconscious in the middle of the living room. Are they dead? Luffy, Ace hisses, grabbing his brother's hand and yanking him back. What the hell do you think you're doing? They might be dangerous. We don't even know why they're here or how the hell they got here. But they're unconscious. Luffy whines, but he let Ace drag him back over to the couch where he and Marco sat. It's not like an unconscious person can attack you. Luffy, Ace is glaring at the teen now, but it isn't out of anger. He needs Luffy to listen to him. All the bad feelings and stomach twists that he has is coming directly from the strangers in their living room. I'm not a baby anymore. Luffy protests with a solid frown. Ace begs to differ, but doesn't comment. Food. One of the unconscious people groans, then started snoring again, causing the others to jump. His voice is almost the same as Luffy's. Ace quickly checks his little brother to make sure that it was, in fact, his Luffy sitting next to him. Thatch says, holding out his spatula and poking the shirtless guy in the back right where his scar is. Should we, I dunno, help them? They seem kind of harmless. Ace thinks that calling the police might be a better course of action, but doesn't know how to explain to an officer that these two literally appeared in their room through a flash of lightning. Be careful, Marco warns Thatch as he continues to poke the shirtless dude with his spatula. This is the start of a bad horror film, Ace mutters. Maybe they're faking being asleep. Luffy tilts his head. They're not fake sleeping, I can tell. Oh, care to share how you know this information? Luffy laughs before looking straight at the two bodies, not a trace of worry in his eyes. Ace doesn't know how he can be so calm in this situation. I can just tell. So, Thatch says, once again getting everyone's attention. What should we do with them? Marco shrugs. Move them on the couch, yoy. They look injured. They snuck into our house, Ace hisses, but knows Marco is right. Besides, Ace knows how to defend himself. Worse comes to worse, he beats the shit out of them and then turns them into the police. After all, they look harmless. He walks out to get the first aid kit and starts rummaging around the kitchen, throwing things out of his way. Some thuds were heard in the other room, presumably Marco, Thatch and Luffy trying to move the strangers to the couch. Then, there is silence. That is, until he hears a mixture of shouts. Holy shit, no way, that's so cool. Why the hell is there another? Ace quickly rushes out, leaving the first aid kit in the kitchen, fearing that their guests were attacking his friends and brother. When Ace flies in the room, he does not expect to see Marco, Thatch and Luffy gathering around the still unconscious body of one of the strangers. Ace's eyes narrow suspiciously. What the hell is going on? Ace, Marco says, voice uncharacteristically serious. You really need to come see this. So Ace does. However, he can honestly say he isn't expecting this. Luffy is lying on one of the couches, while Ace is lying on the other. The only difference was they both looked older, more experienced. The scar that is on the stranger's back mirrors on his front. The Luffy lookalike also has a large scar on his front, shaped like an X. A straw hat is hung loosely around his neck and there are even more wounds on his front. Ace isn't expecting this. He really isn't expecting this. Luffy, me? Ace asks in disbelief, looking at the body in front of him with a feeling of dread. What the fuck? This isn't right, Ace thinks as he looked at the unconscious people. Blinking rapidly, hoping that it wasn't real, he reopens his eyes to the same two bodies. His eyes keep going toward the large X-shaped scar on the Luffy lookalike's chest. Exactly like what Luffy, his Luffy, described in his dream. Dear God, please let it be a dream. That's not me, Luffy says, and Ace turns his head around to see his brother looking at his doppelganger with interest. That's not me. At least, I think it's not me. It's confusing, but you get it, don't you? You know what this means, right? Yeah, Ace says. Everything just clicks at that very moment and Ace has to fight to stay calm. This should have never happened. This shouldn't be happening. It's definitely them, all right. Them? Thatch asks. What do you mean them? Ace looks over his shoulder. You know how we've said that we've been having weird dreams lately with people that look like us that are different? Oh, realization dawns over Thatch's face. You think these people are from your dreams? When both of them nod, Thatch cries out, but that's impossible. That means that they would be from another world, Ace agrees. It seems pretty impossible, but it's the only explanation. What about lost twins? Thatch suggests. Ace glared at him until he shrinks back and holds up his hands placatingly. All right. They're not lost siblings. What about doppelgangers? A makeup artist? Seriously, any of those make more sense than being from another world. How'd they have just randomly appeared in the middle of my living room? Oh God, this is insane. The Luffy doppelganger groans, shifting to his side. His hand clutches at the scar on his chest as he successfully interrupts the conversation. Ace is lying if he says that doesn't unnerve him. Do you think he'll be waking up soon? Luffy asks as Marco pushes Ace out of the way so he can reach the injured teen. Ace watches in silence as Marco makes quick work of the wounds, bandaging and cleaning them up ever so carefully. Ace, once again, thanks Marco's knowledge of medicine and first aid because God knows Ace can't even tie a bandage properly to save his life. By the time he's finished, the Luffy doppelganger looks like a mummy. Finally, Ace turns to Luffy and shrugs helplessly. I don't know. Maybe. Should we take them to a hospital or? The Luffy doppelganger's eyes shoot open before Ace can finish his sentence. When the other Luffy wakes up, it isn't like what Ace imagines in his head. He expects him to slowly open his eyes and then freak out when he realizes that he doesn't know where he is. Maybe a fight. But, in true Luffy fashion, Ace is proven completely and utterly wrong when the other Luffy sits up as fast as he can before saying in a demanding tone, Sanji, food, and then falling back on the couch, clutching his head and letting out another loud, pain groan. That reaction is so Luffy. Ace doesn't like it one bit. Slower this time, the kid opens his eyes, looking around him. Apparently he hasn't noticed anyone else on the room because his eyes never lingered on a single thing. It's like he was soaking up everything except the people. He finally does notice the people. The first person that he recognizes is none other than Marco. The Luffy doppelganger's eyes widened and he tilts his head to the side. Pineapple head, what are you doing here? Ace snorts a little, turning it into a cough when Marco glances at him. They'd managed to break Luffy and Thatch out of pineapple-related puns years ago, but apparently this Luffy is still clinging to it. Marco's eyes narrow and he crosses his arms over his chest. I should be asking you that question. Really? The Luffy look-alike hums. I dunno. One moment I was fighting Teach and the next moment I'm here. And I was kicking his sorry ass too. Ace takes this as the perfect moment to intervene in their short and confusing conversation. If you don't mind me asking, who the hell are you and why did you suddenly appear in my living room? Blunt, but it gets the job done. The other Luffy glances up at Ace and freezes. All the color drains from his face and his eyes are wide, hurting. But Ace, other Luffy just stares. Ace doesn't know what to say, doesn't know what to do, so he just offers a small wave. Ace stops when he sees tears pooling in other Luffy's eyes. Why, you're dead, damn it. Other Luffy yells between his tears, backing up as far as possible on the couch. He looks toward Marco, as if expecting something from him. His hand clutches his chest so hard that he tears right through the carefully constructed bandages. This isn't like Sabo. You died. I was there. Ace, you died in my arms. The other Luffy sobs. What the fuck is going on? Thatch mutters under his breath as he continues to stare at their uninvited guest. Hey, Luffy, his Luffy, not some strange, crying doppelganger, says, bounding up and getting in his double's face. The double jerks his head up, eyes wide. Ace isn't dead. Another ... me. The other Luffy sounds just as confused as Ace feels. He scrubs his face, wiping away the tears. Ace doesn't miss the glances that he receives every few seconds, though. You're from another world, Luffy says in such a matter-of-fact voice that it's hard to argue. Oh, other Luffy says and stares at Ace right in the eyes. He seems to be looking Ace up and down, as if noticing all the differences. Slowly, he nods. That makes more sense. That stings a bit. You're just going to accept that. Ace mutters and tries to ignore the way the other Luffy flinches. Other Luffy nodded. It's not the first time I've been in another world. Besides, you all look really different. And Ace, well, you're not my Ace. The air turns heavy and the other Luffy bites his lip before shaking his head. He looks at Thatch, and I have no idea who you are. What? Thatch sputters. How do you know who Marco is and not me? Other Luffy just shrugs. Marco's my friend. He saved my life. A stray thought comes to Ace not even a second after. Hey, if your Ace is dead, then who's that? Other Luffy's eyebrows furrows in confusion. What do you mean? This time Ace gestures with both of his hands towards the other couch. Go and see. Wait a minute. Marco pushes the boy back down onto the couch when he tries to stand up. He gives Ace a look and Ace just shrugs. You're injured. You shouldn't be standing. I'm fine. Other Luffy grins and easily slips past Marco. Little wounds like this can't slow me down. Little, Marco says in disbelief. Ace echoes the thought too. Other Luffy looks like death warmed up, covered from head to toe in various cuts, bruises and burns. Ace knows that if he has that sort of damage, he wouldn't be standing up anytime soon, which is why he's surprised when other Luffy pushes himself to his feet like it doesn't hurt at all. Marco is right behind him in case he collapses. Other Luffy turns his head to look over his shoulder and gives Ace a sad smile. If I let little things like this bother me, then how can I achieve anything? Normal people wouldn't be able to stand, Marco says. But the other Luffy ignores him. Thatch watches with wide eyes while his Luffy looks on with something akin to understanding. Ace huffs, shaking his head. Slowly, he turns his attention to watch the other Luffy's reaction to his should-be-dead brother. His reaction isn't disappointing. Ace, other Luffy is surprised, to say the least. He confirms that, yes, this is actually his dead brother who isn't actually dead, still clad in whatever he was wearing before. The other Ace slumbers on, oblivious to the commotion he's causing around him. Other Luffy starts pacing around the room, straw hat covering his face, muttering under his breath. That is 20 minutes ago. Ace, Marco, and Thatch watch on, unsure what to do. Their Luffy just stares at his other self, eyes full of an emotion that Ace can't place. The entire situation is so impossible that Ace's head hurts just thinking about it. Should we do something? Thatch mutters, standing awkwardly to the side. Like what? Marco hisses back. But even Ace's patience is reaching a limit after the 20th time other Luffy says, Ace shouldn't be alive. He's dead. He's dead. Ace snaps. Obviously he's not dead, Ace says, trying to ignore the way that other Luffy flinches when he hears his voice. Sit down. Shouldn't you be happy or something? Tears gather in the other Luffy's eyes and Ace has just enough time to think shit. I am happy. Other Luffy says quietly, whipping the tears from his eyes. He gives them all a watery smile. I wonder if he still remembers me. The way that he said it makes Ace pause, thinking that there is more to those words than he's letting on. As much as he wants to, Ace doesn't push the subject. He has a feeling that the story, all of it, will reveal itself eventually. Hey, what's your name? Marco asks, and Ace has a feeling that he will never know what's going on. Marco's probably right there with him. But Marco does bring up a good point. What if this man only looks like Luffy? What if he isn't actually Luffy? Other Luffy grins at them, but even Ace can tell it's subdued. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become the Pirate King. No, he is definitely Luffy. Oh, Ace's Luffy echoes, bounding up with endless curiosity. Pirate King. Whoa. Thatch holds up his hands and shakes his head. Pirate King. As in like, Blackbeard and stuff. You're a pirate. I hate Blackbeard. Other Luffy spits out with so much venom that the others take a step back. Then, his attitude does a complete 180 and he grins. But I am a pirate. What the hell? Marco says and Ace nods in agreement. As far as Ace is concerned, pirates don't really exist here, so someone claiming they were a pirate was confusing. Besides, he doesn't think that his little brother would become a pirate, and one as young as he is. Not to mention it's weird seeing someone who looks almost exactly like his brother claim they are a criminal. Why a pirate? Luffy asks, excited. Other Luffy tips his straw hat over his eyes, but all of them can see his smile. The Pirate King has more freedom than anyone on the seas. Freedom. That makes much more sense. But Ace has to wonder who gave this boy such a weird view of pirates. Or maybe pirates are different in his word. Ace is going to ask later. Wait. Ace's Luffy suddenly shouts and everyone turns to look at him. We can't both be Luffy. I'm Luffy too. He's got a point. Ace finds himself agreeing. Both Luffys look at him and he resists the urge to shudder because it's really weird seeing two of his little brothers at once. Call me Straw Hat, then. Other Luffy, Straw Hat, apparently, says and grins. People call me that all the time. Marco casts a sideways glance at the teen. People call you that. Straw Hat laughs. Yeah, Smokey and the others do. Most of the time it's by people who want to kill me. People that want to kill you. Ace gives a sideways glance. Even if he is a pirate, authorities would want to capture him, right? Ace knows that people don't purposely kill others unless they're a serious threat or it's an accident. To hear him say it so casually is. Ace doesn't know exactly what it is. Straw Hat grins like he's proud of the fact. Yeah, they would have tries to kill me even if I didn't become a pirate. I told Gramps that but he doesn't listen. Marco narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? The government. They don't care about us. I don't know if I should be telling you this cause Ace gets really mad, but you are Ace, right? And everyone already knows about Ace's dad, so. Ace's dad was the last Pirate King. He tried to hide it, but the government found out and ordered his execution. Straw Hat trails off, a faraway look in his eyes. They tried to execute me for my dad, too. He's a dragon. He's the most wanted man in the world, or something. Luffy looks at his counterpart in confusion. You mean that you and your Ace don't have the same dad? Are you half-brothers, then? That's what he gets from that. Thatch mutters. Straw Hat grins. Me and Ace aren't related by blood at all. I only met him when we were 7. And he hated me back then. Ace has a hard time believing that he would ever hate Luffy. Sure, he was an annoying little brat sometimes, but Ace is the one that raised Luffy since he was a baby. Luffy was the only thing he had left before he met Marco and Thatch. Oh, Luffy says. He sits still for a second, but then slumps in his seat and lets out a large sigh, looking at his brother with giant puppy dog eyes. Ace, I'm bored. Watch TV or something, Thatch suggests. While you do that, we seriously needed to figure out what's going on. Luffy doesn't look too happy about being excluded from the conversation. But he doesn't look like he wants to stay in it, either. The teen jumps over the couch, landing on the floor with an ungraceful thud and races to grab the remote. Luffy switches on the TV and plops down on the other side of the couch. As soon as the TV starts speaking, Straw Hat jumps so high in the air that Ace still had trouble believing what he just sees. His wide eyes look around as if preparing for an ambush. What's that? Luffy looks at his double weirdly. What do you mean, what's that? It's a TV. Television. Don't you guys have that wherever you live? No. Straw Hat bounds over to the TV and pokes it. When nothing happens, Straw Hat's shoulders relax and he takes his time to actually look at the TV. His eyes light up and Ace swears that he sees stars in his eyes. This is so cool. It's like a video den mushy. A what? Ace asks. A den mushy, Straw Hat says. We talk on them. They're really cool snails. Snails? What do you mean? Thatch asks, sounding just as confused as Ace felt. Maybe it's a mistranslation. After all, they don't know if English is Straw Hat's first language. They're snails. Straw Hat looks as confused as everyone feels, completely abandoning watching the TV. What do you mean? What do I mean? Marco takes a second to gather his thoughts. You use snails to communicate. Yeah, Straw Hat, for his part, just seems confused that they are confused. Ace's head hurts. What do you use? Marco pulls out his phone and Straw Hat tilts his head to the side. That's a box. How do you communicate with a box? Marco turns the device on and Straw Hat looks at it curiously as his screensaver, a picture of the four of them together, appears. His eyes widen, sparkling. It shows pictures. That's so cool. Frankie would love that. Ace opens his mouth, about to ask more questions before. Ouch! Everyone in the room freezes, turning their heads to look at the figure that was slowly trying to sit up while scratching his head. The other Ace glanced around the room, clearly disoriented. My head hurts. Where the hell am I? An Ace. Straw Hat is looking at his should-be-dead brother with such longing that it makes Ace's own heart wrench. Ace doesn't want to imagine what he went through. Thank you for loving me. Okay, scratch that. He already thought about what he went through. He just never wants to experience it again. Straw Hat is across the room, tackling other Ace of the couch before anyone can blink. Ace can't help but think that he looks so much younger when he's desperately grabbing other Ace's shirt as if other Ace is going to disappear if he lets go. Ace. Something about his tone makes Ace stop and shiver because that's Luffy's voice. The boy that he grew up with, that he helped raise. Luffy should never have to sound like that. You're here. Soon enough. Straw Hat had small tears leaking from his eyes. His head was buried into a very confused other Ace's chest while he kept muttering things about broken promises and the thought of being alone in the big world. Being alone is more painful than being hurt. Luffy. Other Ace looks down at the crying man in his lap, confused. Ace sees the gears in his brain turning before everything just clicks. Something flashes across the other Ace's face. Holy shit. Luffy. The man finally hugs Straw Hat back. Ace stares, unsure of what to do. It's obvious that other Ace doesn't notice anything else in the room, nor seems to even acknowledge his wounds. So Ace sits to the side and decides to let them work this out on their own time. Luffy, of course, has no problems bounding up to both of them with a big smile and no sense of self-preservation. Hey, are you? Luffy. Ace's hand is covering the teen's mouth in seconds, trying to get him to shut up before he ruins the oddly touching scene in front of him. Both the other Ace and Straw Hat glanced up at the other two brothers. Other Ace's eyes widen and looks at Straw Hat, who just shrugs. He doesn't sound nearly as shocked as Ace would be if the situation had been reversed. Oh, another me and another Luffy. You don't sound too surprised. Marco pushes himself off the couch and goes to stand against the wall next to Thatch. Luffy gladly takes the extra space on the couch to stretch his legs. Pineapple head. Other Ace exclaimed in surprise, but sounds happy. Thatch covers his own laugh while Marco elbows him in the side. Weird things happen on the Grand Line all the time. What are you doing here, anyway? And whose? Other Ace stops halfway through his sentence, finally seeming to recognize Thatch. All the color drains from his face and he flinches back. Thatch. Oh right, Straw Hat says as if he remembers something. You said one of your Nakama died in our world, right? Our world. Other Ace says at the same time as Thatch squeaks, died. Ace finds this as the best time to interrupt and tell everyone his theory, and save them from Thatch's freak out, even if it leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. By the time he finishes explaining, Other Ace is nodding slowly as if he understands. Dimension travel isn't impossible, Other Ace comments. I mean, I've heard about it from Pops before. Rainbow Mist too, Straw Hat says. Other Ace nods his head in agreement like that makes complete sense. Right, this is great and all. Thatch interrupts and Ace watches as his counterpart flinches, staring at the man with wide eyes. It seems like his wounds are still fresh. But what are we going to do now? If this really is an alternate dimension, Other Ace says, then we need to find a way to get back home. The last thing I remember was the war. Fuck, everyone was fighting. Luffy, what happened after I? Ace. Straw Hat looks down at his hands, voice cracking. You died. You and Mustache Asen were buried. I visited your grave. Other Ace sucks in a breath and shakes his head. He looks like he expects it, but pain is still written across his face. So Pops really did. Fuck, Luffy, I'm so sorry. From beside Ace, Marco and Thatch both hiss in disbelief. Ace himself is unsure if he heard right. There was no way that Pops, the great Edward Newgate, is dead, right? Straw Hat smiles at him, watery and broken in a way that Ace has never seen on his Luffy's face. It's been 2 years. I trained to become stronger, so I wouldn't have to lose anyone again. I've gotten a lot stronger. We even defeated Kaido and Big Mom. I won't have to lose anyone again. I won't have to lose you again. Ace, promise me that you'll come back with me. Other Ace stares at his hands for a second, clenching and unclenching his fists. He takes a deep breath before staring at his brother with newfound determination. I promise. Before this gets more confusing than it already is, Ace says after everything finally calms down enough for him to speak. He rakes his hand across his face because this has been a long day and jerks his thumb at his double. What are we calling you? Other Ace looks at him like he's the one that dropped out of the sky. What do you mean? I don't know if you've noticed, but there is already an Ace here. Ace gestures to himself. And there can't be 2 Monkey D Aces in this house. Portgas, excuse me. Other Ace scrunches up his nose. My name is Portgas, not Monkey. That's Luffy's name. Weird, Luffy says and laughs. Of course the idiot thinks this is funny. Look, Ace pinches the bridge of his nose. He wants to sleep, preferably until this is all over. At this point, I physically can't bring myself to care. We need to figure out what we're calling you. We're calling Luffy's double Straw Hat. Thatch chimes in helpfully. Epithets. Other Ace turns to Straw Hat with a raised brow and Straw Hat just shrugs. I'd be Fire Fist then. I'm not even going to ask, Ace says, and he means it. He feels exhausted. His wounds from the wreck still ache, even with the pain meds. He's been dealing with those dreams, the storm, the voices, and now this. We'll figure more out tomorrow, Marco says, ever the voice of reason. Ace would kiss out of gratitude if he isn't so exhausted. For now, let's sleep on it and maybe we'll find out how to get you 2 back home. Come on, I'll show you the guest rooms. Bedtime. Luffy chirps happily and dashes to his room. Ace watches him go in sighs. He wishes he knew how his little brother could be so carefree in the face of the impossible. They lead Fire Fist and Straw Hat down the halls, ignoring how they look at the house. Pictures line the walls, some of Ace and Luffy when they were younger, some of Marco and Thatch, some of all 4 of them, and some of Whitebeard and Ace's coworkers. They're good memories. Ace keeps moving even when he spies Fire Fist observing a picture of him and Luffy for longer than he looks at the others. This isn't a ship, Fire Fist observes. Noticing their disbelieving looks, the man gives them a weak smile and scratches the back of his head. Sorry, it's just been a long time since I've stayed in a house. We, aren't on land very often. I already told them we're pirates, Straw Hat says. He stays close to his brother's side, almost as if he were scared that Fire Fist would disappear if they were separated anymore. Maybe he would. Ace doesn't know the specifics of dimension travel. Of course you did. Fire Fist sighs and shakes his head fondly. Thatch opens the guest room door and flicks on the lights. The small room isn't much, but then again they don't have guests often. Ace doesn't have any family outside of the Whitebeards, and he doesn't have enough money to really decorate the inside. He's lucky to even have a house and not try and stuff his energetic little brother in an apartment. Sorry, there's only 1 bed. Thatch says, but Fire Fist only shrugs. It's fine, Straw Hat and I are used to sharing. Straw Hat snakes his way into the room and throws himself on the bed with a happy grin. Marco bids them a good night and Thatch follows. Ace is about to retire to his own room when someone clears their throat. He turns to see his own face giving him a meaningful look. This is probably pretty confusing to you to so. Thanks for helping us. Ace gives him a tired grin. We are the same person after all. You would have done the same if our positions were reversed. I guess so, Fire Fist agrees. Well, good night. Night. Ace can't sleep. He sure feels exhausted, but whenever he tries, flashes appear. Memories, dreams, whatever they were, Ace doesn't like them. When his clock hits 3 in the morning, Ace sighs and throws himself out of bed. He doubts he's going to get much sleep, even though he desperately wants to. Which means that tomorrow's narcolepsy attacks are going to be worse than normal. Even with medication, it seemed that he was never free of sudden sleep attacks. Well, good thing he's still technically on bed rest from the crash. He walks down the halls, careful not to wake anyone. He passes the pictures on the walls and heads out towards the back porch. He opens the door and shivers slightly at the cool breeze. Winter would be coming soon. He's about to sit on one of the 4 lawn chairs scattered across the deck when he sees a figure hunched over, sitting on the stairs leading to the yard. Ace can't make much out in the dim light that the moon and stars provide, but he sees black hair, a red shirt, and a straw hat dangling from its owner's neck. He knows of only one person that wears a straw hat around. Hey Luffy, what are you doing up? Ace moves to sit by him, but when Luffy turns, Ace is brilliantly reminded that the figure is definitely not Luffy. If the scar under his eye and the bandages spanning across his chest are anything to go by. Right, because there are 2 now. He forgot. Oh, hi Ace. Straw Hat grins at him. Ace takes that as an invitation to sit down next to his. Couldn't sleep. Yeah, Ace says. Me neither. They lapse into comfortable silence. Ace says Luffy would never be able to sit this still or quietly for so long. He probably wouldn't have even woken up in the first place, seeing as he sleeps like a rock. Ace is starting to figure out that for all of the similarities that their doubles share, they're still different. Because Straw Hat, with his sad smiles and dead older brothers, is a fighter. Ace can see it in his eyes, the way he moves. His eyes reflect that of veteran soldiers, built on years of hardships. His dreams might be their memories, but they're never very clear to begin with. He's already forgetting parts of them. Sometimes, Ace wonders what they went through. The flashes, the fire, the boy who never came home. The pirates, the war, the government. Fire, 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 so much fire. And sometimes Ace wants to forget. Ace, Sabo and I used to watch the stars a lot as kids, Straw Hat says, breaking the silence. He turns and smiles at Ace, lost in memories that Ace will never have. Ace still doesn't know who Sabo is, but figures it's someone important to both Straw Hat and Fire Fist. I watch the stars with my Nakama too. These stars are different, though. I don't recognize any of them. At that moment, Ace realizes just how far Straw Hat and Fire Fist are from their home. Dimension travel. They could be millions upon billions of miles away, in a star system that the scientists of this world have never even dreamed of. Their family has no way of knowing where they are, and they don't know how to get back. Ace knows that if he was in that position, he would be terrified. Straw Hat continues, I've been sent away before. Not like this, but I was separated from everyone. Ace looks at him. How? Straw Hat smiles, eyes closed, but even Ace could tell that he was hurting. His hand creeps up, tracing over the bandages that cover the large burn scar on his chest. Ace tries not to look. Because I was too weak. I wasn't strong enough to protect them, just like I wasn't strong enough to save. My brother is left unsaid. I trained for 2 years to get stronger. Straw Hat grabs his hat and places it on his head, turning back to the stars, eyes filled with an odd sort of determination. I was never going to lose anyone again. And now, here I am, with my dead brother, and I don't know how, but I'm happy. This time, I'm going to bring Ace back no matter what. We're going to find a way to get both of you back. Ace agrees because they will. Straw Hat smiles at him, the brightest smile Ace has seen from him yet, and laughs. Tell me about your crew, Ace says. Straw Hat happily agrees, launching into a wild tale of adventure and friendship. Some names Ace recognizes. Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Brook, but others he's never heard before. Vivi, Jinbei, Momonosuke, Toro. He talks about creatures that Ace can only dream of. He talks about his crew's past, about how they've all suffered but continue for the sake of their dreams, how they're constantly fighting, running. I think I've figured it out, Ace says once Straw Hat seems done. Our world is about living, yours is about surviving. Straw Hat laughs at him and shakes his head. No, our world is about following our dreams. Is it? Then what's your dream? To become Pirate King. Ace furrows his eyebrows in confusion. From what little knowledge he has of their world, he knows that the Pirate King is an important figure, someone that the world wouldn't care to see again. So why? Why be something the world hates the most? Ace asks as much to Straw Hat. I want to be free, Straw Hat says. I promised Shanks that I would become Pirate King, the man with the most freedom in the world. So my world is about living without freedom, Ace says because suddenly he understands. And your world is about surviving with freedom. My world is better, Straw Hat says without a trace of hesitation, and all Ace can do is laugh because, yeah, he figured that Straw Hat would say that. Ace does manage to fall asleep that night, curled up under the stars. Granted, it isn't very comfortable and he's freezing when he wakes up, but damn if he doesn't feel tired anymore. The sun is just peeking across the horizon and Ace yawns, stretching. He wonders for a brief second why he's outside. But then the emotional whirlwind of yesterday sends him crashing back into reality. Their doubles appearing, the reunion, his talk with Straw Hat. Ace sighs, figuring there was no point in trying to go back to sleep now. It was his week to cook anyways, and since they were having guests, he might as well get started on breakfast. Eggs and pancakes are easy and they don't take much time to make, perfect for a lazy Sunday morning. He shuffles to the kitchen and tears through the cabinets. He still has plenty of batter and a dozen eggs, which is good. He really doesn't want to run to the store and have to buy more. Leftovers are fine for the next few days. It's 20 minutes later when a crash echoes through the house and Ace sighs because, really, his brother could be quieter in the mornings. Food. Suddenly there are 2 pairs of footsteps running through the hallways. He spots his little brother sprinting at full speed but doesn't see Straw Hat until he's literally right in front of Ace. What the fuck? Ace nearly drops his spatula in surprise because when did he get there? Luffy laughs and climbs onto one of the bar stools. You're fast. I'm hungry, Straw Hat says as if he didn't just teleport right in front of Ace. Luffy, you're so loud. Thatch's voice interrupts as he stumbles out of his room, still messy from sleep. He stops when he spots the 2 Luffys, eyes narrowing in thought. Why are there two of why? Oh, right. Dimension travel. Straw Hat and Luffy give him identical grins as Thatch plops on the couch with a sigh. Ace shrugs and goes back to making plates of pancakes and eggs for everyone. He stops a hand from stealing one, courtesy of Straw Hat, and smacks away his own brother's nimble fingers. Marco stumbles out of his room not a moment later in his full bed-headed glory. He glances at the two Luffys before staring at Ace with a deadpan expression. Coffee. Here, Ace says and hands over the steaming cup of caffeinated energy. Luffy makes a face at it, not a fan. Marco takes a sip and gives him a small, grateful smile before going over to join Thatch on the couch. Fire Fist is the last to appear, still wearing his torn and bloodied clothes from yesterday. He yawns loudly and stretches. He glances around the room before joining his brother by the bar. Ace passes out the plates. Luffy gives him a happy thanks. But Straw Hat and Fire Fist glance at the plates before looking at Ace as if he did something wrong. What? Ace says. Maybe they're allergic to eggs or something. It's just small, Fire Fist says, but takes the plate anyways. Eat that and I'll give you seconds, Ace tells him. He goes to give Thatch and Marco their plates, but before he can even take a step, Straw Hat yells, seconds, and slams down a now empty plate, almost as if he were mocking him. Fire Fist puts down his now empty plate too. Luffy looks at them, shrugs, and goes back to shoveling eggs in his mouth. Ace stares. How did you? We eat a lot, Fire Fist says as if that explains how they cleaned their plate within a few seconds. You know what? Ace says and pinches the bridge of his nose. Give me a second. He gives Thatch and Marco their plates before heading back in the kitchen to get seconds for their guests. He loads their plates with another 3 pancakes each and they still look at the plate in disappointment. Ace turns his back for maybe 2 more seconds to get his own food when he hears Straw Hat slam his plate on the bar and shout, thirds. Ace whirls around, eyes wide because there was no way that someone could finish 3 pancakes in 2 seconds. But there Straw Hat was, standing with a grin and an empty plate. Luffy is still soaking his second pancake in syrup, eyes only for his meal. Ace is done. It's not even 8 in the morning yet. Fire Fist grins at him and offers up his empty plate as well. I told you we. Fire Fist's head slams down on the counter before he can even finish the sentence. Thatch and Marco are on their feet in moments, wide-eyed and worried. Ace stares at his double for a solid 10 seconds before looking over at Straw Hat, who seemed more concerned trying to steal from Luffy's plate. Thatch approaches, touching his shoulder. Is he okay? A snore is their only answer. Marco checks his pulse for good measure. Fire Fist doesn't even flinch. He just fell asleep. Straw Hat turns to look at them and grins. There's a little piece of pancake on his right cheek and Ace resists the urge to wipe it away, like he does with his own little brother. Oh yeah, AC, Fire Fist is fine. He has narcolepsy. Narcolepsy. Ace asks and hopes that he's wrong. Yeah, that. Straw Hat grins at him. He falls asleep a lot. He's fine. Ace's head is spinning. That's literally not how narcolepsy works at all. Narcoleptics don't just. Isn't he on pills or something? Straw Hat just tilts his head to the side. Pills? Ace drags his hand across his face. Forget it. Someone check if his head is okay. Why wouldn't his head be okay? Marco carefully moves Fire Fist's head, checking along the spine and then seeing if there was any bruising around his forehead. He just slammed his head down on a granite countertop. It'll probably be a nasty bruise later. Straw Hat just seems confused but shrugs. He holds out his plate for more and Ace diligently piles on 3 more pancakes. Straw Hat smiles and heads back to his seat. The pancakes are gone before he even sits down. Ace pinches the bridge of his nose, but resolves not to ask. Apparently pirates can eat their food at superhuman speed. Wonderful. He turns back to his food, fully intending to gobble down his pancakes, only to find an empty plate. He scrunches his nose up in confusion because he was sure that he already made a plate for himself. He glances up. The rest of the extra pancakes were gone as well. Straw Hat is looking away with an empty plate and a guilty expression and, oh, you're a dirty little food thief, Ace tells him because at least his brother knows not to steal food from others. Straw Hat sweats a bit and doesn't look him in the eyes. I am not. I was going to eat those, you asshole, Ace tells him and his stomach lets out an unsatisfied rumble. How are you even eating so fast? Straw Hat looks like he's about to respond, but then Fire Fist's shoulder bursts into flame. Ace does not scream, thank you very much. That was definitely Thatch and in no way did he jump. He does, however, very quickly move away, grabbing Luffy by the collar of his t-shirt as he goes. He grabs Straw Hat's shirt too, but the boy seems more confused at their reactions than anything. What the fuck? Thatch says and falls off the couch. He's running down the halls before anyone else can say anything, presumably to get a fire extinguisher, or water, or something. Ace pushes both Luffys towards Marco, who then pushes them behind him. Luffy is staring at Fire Fist, eyes wide, but Straw Hat seems completely at ease. Ace's double is still snoring, on fire. How is he sleeping through being on fire? Marco asks, aghast. Straw Hat goes to push his way through them, but Ace yanks him back. Otherworld or not, he still looks like his little brother and he isn't going to let him get hurt. Hey, that's dangerous. Straw Hat looks at him as if he's an idiot. Ace's fire isn't dangerous. Ace parrots then points to the guy that was still on fire. You mean he's making that fire? Why else would he be on fire? We don't know. Both Ace and Marco roar at him. Straw Hat seems taken aback, like he can't fathom the idea that they would be worried about someone on fire. Normal people, Ace says slowly and carefully, don't burst into flame. How weird, Straw Hat says, and Ace has to take a deep breath to calm himself from snapping. That's so cool. Luffy cheers and makes a move to approach, but Ace holds him back. Now that he's actually looking at his double, he sees the fire isn't actually burning him. It flickers and roams, but it never grows nor does it spread. The skin underneath stays the same as it always is, unmarred even by the heat that fire should be producing. Just at that moment, Thatch decides that's the perfect moment to come rushing in with a bucket full of water, screaming at the top of his lungs. Ace, Marco, and both Luffys move out of his way quickly as he dumps the water on top of Fire Fist. The water douses the fire immediately and Fire Fist jerks up. Eat a lot, Fire Fist says drowsily before blinking and looking down at his now wet clothes. Why am I wet? You set yourself on fire, Straw Hat explains. Instead of panicking like a normal person would do, Fire Fist nods. Oh, oops. Why, you were just on fire. How? Thatch mutters and flops on the couch once he sees there is no wounds or damage. Why are you so worried? Fire Fist looks at them, judging their reactions before leaning forward on his hand with interest. You guys don't have devil fruits here, do you? Devil fruits? Luffy asks, eyes wide. No, Marco says. Straw Hat goes to pick his nose and Ace yanks his hand away before it even reaches his face. He curbed that habit from his younger brother years ago and was not about to have him pick it back up again. No devil fruits. I was thinking about it last night, when Luffy didn't use his. Marco too. I figured that maybe you don't use them in the house. But then this morning Luffy didn't use his at all, even for food. Fire Fist holds up his hand, only for it to erupt into flame. Ace leans back, weary of the fire. He doesn't have very good experiences with the element. I was thrown off a bit, but I figured that if this really is another world, then you guys might not have the same stuff as us. I was right. Thatch yelps, holding up the empty water bucket threateningly. Luffy goes to touch the flame, but Marco yanks his hand back before he can even come close. Fire Fist laughs at their reactions. Devil fruits are fruits that give you power when you eat them. Legend says that devil fruits are the sea devil's incarnation. If you eat one, you can't swim. Sea water makes you weak and unable to use your powers. They taste bad. Straw Hat sticks out his tongue and Fire Fist nods in agreement. You have superpowers from a fruit. That tastes bad, Thatch says. Fire Fist grins and suddenly his hand is just a normal hand again. Yeah, WHHAAO. Luffy is jumping all over the place, all smiles. He crowds Fire Fist, grabbing his hand and examining it, laughing when he sees there is no damage. Ace, we need one. We gotta find one. Superpowers. He's like the Human Torch. I ate the Mira no mai. I am fire, Fire Fist says. He turns and grabs Straw Hat's cheek before pulling and pulling and pulling. Ace has to pick his jaw off the ground because Straw Hat's cheek just keeps stretching. Sorry, Straw Hat here ate the Gamu no mai. His entire body turned into rubber. He stretches. I'm a rubber man, Straw Hat confirms. What the fuck? Ace hisses because honestly, could this day get any weirder? Yesterday, pirates fall out of the sky. Today, they can eat at superhuman speed and have superpowers. Thatch is looking at Straw Hat with a funny expression on his face. So everything stretches. Yep, Straw Hat says. Even your. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Thatch, Marco warns. I was going to say teeth. Fire Fist laughs and shakes his head. He's staring at the two fondly, lost in old memories. Ace wonders how long it's been since he's seen them bicker like that. Do they even bicker like that in his word? Wonders if they're as close as they are in this world. Ace can't imagine not being friends with Marco or Thatch. Guns, swords, punches, Fire Fist says. None of that work on me. Straw Hat's immune to guns and blunt force. Unless you know Hacky, Straw Hat chirps and grins. Luffy tilts his head to the side. Hacky, instead of answering. Fire Fist turns and gives his brother an incredulous look. Since when do you know about Hacky? Straw Hat holds his hand out. Suddenly, a black steel-like substance is covering his entire forearm. Rayleigh taught me. While the name doesn't really mean anything to Ace, it must mean something to Fire Fist because he balks, staring at his brother with wide eyes. Dark Knight Rayleigh. Whatever Straw Hat is about to say is interrupted by Thatch, who cautiously approaches to touch Straw Hat's arm. Straw Hat grins and holds it out as Thatch runs his fingers up and down. Wow, it feels like steel almost. Your arm is cold. Is this your, devil fruit? Nope, Straw Hat says as he takes him arm back and the black substance fades. Fire Fist is still staring at his brother like he can't believe he just did that. It's hacky. Yeah, Thatch says. You said that, but that doesn't explain anything at all. Firefist's face scrunches up. He swings his legs from the bar stool and looks around at everyone crowded around him. He's still giving his brother a weird look, but seems to have shaken off most of his surprise. Hacky is kind of hard to explain. It's like awakening your senses. Anyone can use it. What about us? Luffy interrupts with a hopeful grin. Alternate universe, so I don't actually know, Firefist says, and Luffy visibly deflates. He continues to give a detailed explanation of the 3 types of haki and how they work, demonstrating them each in turn. Straw Hat chimes in from time to time, though he never really makes much sense. It's basically essential in the further you get in the seas, Firefist finishes. So the space pirates can use ESP, of course. Anything else would be too normal, Thatch says. Firefist gives him a weird look. Space pirates. Thatch shrugs and begins to tick off his fingers. Space pirates, dimension pirates. I've been to the sky, Straw Hat says helpfully. And under the sea. Sky pirates, underwater pirates. Great, keep adding on to the list. Maybe one day we'll actually see you guys sail on a normal ocean. We do, Firefist insists. But Thatch just waves him off. While this is nice and all, Marco interrupts and everyone turns to look at him. He stands up and points to the clock. Thatch and I still have work. I forgot about that, Thatch mutters and sighs. He takes all the empty plates and places them in the sink. Marco disappears down the halls, gathering his stuff while Thatch works to clean around the kitchen. Ace, Luffy, take it easy. You're both still on bed rest. We're heading out. Yoy, Marco says once everything is in working order again. Ace and Luffy wave them goodbye while Firefist and Straw Hat watch them leave, curious. Pirates don't work, right? Ace forgot about that. That was a discussion for another hour though, because Ace was sure his poor brain can't take any more cultural differences from their guests. He turns and is met with 3 expectant gazes. Ace tries not to sigh. He tries really, really hard, but the day has barely started and he already has a migraine the size of Russia. Of course he can't recover in peace. Whatever deity is up there hates him, apparently. Turns out pirates are very easily to entertain once they have TV access. Luffy is much harder to calm down, but settles on the couch next to their 2 guests. They were chatting animatedly about something with the TV playing in the background, but Ace can't hear them from his spot in the kitchen. Pirates can eat more food than Ace has in his entire fridge, which shouldn't be physically possible, but these 2 seem to have a bad habit of breaking the laws of physics. He glances over at Firefist, looking at the worn pants and torn up and bloody shoes. Firefist is lounging on the couch, apparently unbothered by the fact that he is filthy and living in his own blood. He's going to let him borrow some clothes. Hey, other me, Ace calls, and all 3 of them turn to look at him. Ace walks into the living area and gestures towards the hallway. Come on, let's go get you changed before you ruin my couch. You're going to wear some of my clothes. Firefist jumps to his feet and races after him with a relieved, thank you. Ace glances at the 2 Luffys before leading Firefist to his room. He ushers Firefist into his room and shuts the room behind him before going and digging through his closet. Ace throws him some old shorts, a t-shirt, and a new pair of shoes. I miss my hat, Firefist says as he starts to strip in the middle of the room. Ace doesn't ever recall having a hat but nods along anyways. By the time he's finished changing, the only thing left behind is the shirt, which Firefist is very pointedly not putting on. Shirt too, Ace says. I am not wearing a shirt, Firefist argues, because of course changing isn't that simple. Nothing is simple with these 2. Oh yes you are, Ace says and shoves the shirt in his counterpart's arms. My house, my rules, Firefist sighs, big and loud, like wearing the shirt is the worst possible thing, but complies anyways. Ace watches him hesitate, hand crawling up to the huge burn scar in the center of his chest. He turns to look at his back in the mirror, as if expecting something to be there. Ace can only see the circular burn scar that's almost identical to the one on his front. It's my pride and joy. I haven't worn a shirt in a long time, Firefist says and sounds wistful. He slips the shirt over his head and sighs when he looks in the mirror again. It's like he sees a different person, but why, Ace doesn't know. Firefist gives a small smile, pulling on the seams. Ace has seen that smile before, surrounded by death and explosions with blood leaking from his mouth and a hole in his chest. Even though I carry the blood of a demon, your Luffy is different, Ace says, trying to shake his thoughts. He doesn't want to remember anymore. Firefist pauses, looking up from the shirt. Well, he's acting a bit weird. It might be because he's matured, but I think most of the reason is because of me. He's mad at me. Firefist's smile turns just a bit bitter. And I don't blame him. Why? Because I promised. There's a memory there. 2 boys in tears on a cliff that faces the endless ocean. Smiles and tears as they mourn the loss of another. I promise I will never die. How can I leave a weak little brother like you alone? I promised I wouldn't die and I died in his arms. Thank you for loving me. Oh, Ace sits on his bed, resting his head on his hand. He stares his counterpart, thinking. Ace doesn't know why he's here, but he thinks he has an idea. A broken promise and the love of a brother are strong, strong things. Ace gives him the biggest smile he can muster because while he might have died before, he's not dead now. For some strange, unexplainable reason, you've been given another chance. How are you going to use it? The rest of the day passes quickly with no other incidents. Straw Hat and Fire Fist chat a bit about how they got here and how they could get home, both coming to the conclusion that Blackbeard has something to do with it. He's been stealing devil fruits and hunting down devil fruit users, Straw Hat says. He went after your fruit too, but my fruit? Fire Fist asks. Ace wonders what they're talking about, but decides not to interrupt. He'll let them figure it out for themselves. Yeah, Straw Hat says and doesn't elaborate. I don't know, but maybe. You think he stole a fruit and that's how we got here? Fire Fist says, and it's not a question. To Ace, the whole idea of devil fruits is absurd. Who came up with the idea that you had to eat a fruit, get superpowers, and not be able to swim? I don't think he meant to do it, Straw Hat says, but nods anyways. When we were fighting, Fire Fist hisses, looking away. He didn't seem to be able to control the other fruits very well, and he can only use one at a time. I think he was getting desperate and he sent us here. Fire Fist sighs. Great. That means he's probably the only way home. Fire Fist warns the others about him and that if they are here, then he might be too. It scares Ace, to say the least. By the time Monday rolls around, Ace is feeling a little bit better about the situation. They still haven't found any clues on how to get the pirates home, but nothing has been destroyed and no government agents have shown up at Ace's door and taken them away. At least he doesn't jump whenever he turns the corner, only to see his face. Ace considers that an improvement. Granted, they're all still having trouble adjusting to the new rhythm of the house. Fire Fist still flinches whenever he looks at Thatch. Straw Hat doesn't leave Fire Fist's side but still seems distant to get too close. Marco and Thatch don't really know what to make of the situation, and Ace would probably care more if he didn't have to cook for everyone. Monday morning, Ace is up by 6 a.m. cooking. Luffy has school and will wake up in an hour. Ace doesn't know what he's going to do with the pirates considering he's the only person that's going to be in the house with them for most of the day. Not being able to work sucks. By 7:30, everyone is downstairs and ready. Luffy is chatting with his double about some story, and in turn, Straw Hat shares some of his own stories. Marco has already had his first cup of coffee and is lounging around with the morning paper while Thatch is helping cook to try and keep pace with the pirates' appetite. It still rattles Ace that they could eat enough food for 10 grown men and not die. Luffy jumps from his barstool, startling Ace out of his thoughts. He grabs his backpack and waves at everyone. Heading out, bye. He's out the door before anyone can respond, laughing all the way. Fire Fist turns towards Ace, confused. His face is full of what looks like eggs and he side-eyes his own plate. Ace wonders why until he sees a rubber hand sneak up and reach for a sausage. Fire Fist takes his fork and slams it down, just missing spearing his brother through the hand. Where is he going? School, Ace tells him simply. Fire Fist scrunches his face up and turns his attention to Ace. Straw Hat steals all his food faster than Ace can blink. Luffy goes to school. Straw Hat glances from Ace to Fire Fist and asks, "What school? Did you guys not go to school?" Marco asks, and both Fire Fist and Straw Hat shake their heads. "We never needed to go to school and we turned out fine," Fire Fist says instead. Turned out fine as in being some of the most notorious criminals in your world. Yeah, okay. Thatch mutters and Ace shoves a fist in his mouth to keep from laughing. So neither of you have a formal education? Marco asks. Straw Hat laughs and tips his hat up with a grin. We're pirates. He says it as if it's an explanation for everything. Maybe to them, it is. That's great. But even pirates should know basic algebra, Thatch tells them both. Ace nods, but knows he hasn't used algebra since high school. Fire Fist rolls his eyes before suddenly smirking as if he has an idea. Hey, watch this. Straw Hat, if you were unconscious for 3 days, how many meals did you miss? Straw Hat says, eyes wide. He puts his fist in his palm. I've missed 21 meals. Why is he counting 7 meals a day? Marco mutters under his breath. Thatch gives a surprised laugh and Ace just shakes his head. What if you're unconscious for 32 days? Fire Fist continues. That's 224 meals. Straw Hat doesn't even hesitate. And if you're unconscious for 168 days? 1,176 meals, Straw Hat says, but then looks down and holds his stomach as if he was in pain. That's too many meals to miss. Straw Hat is a genius when it comes to multiples of 7 and counting how many meals he's missed. Fire Fist tells them as if that were supposed to clear up the entire situation. Ace is resigned to his fate that nothing that ever comes out of either of their mouths will make any sense whatsoever. Right, I think that's enough excitement for this morning. I'm heading out, Marco says, putting his plate away and waving to everyone as he passes. Ace waves at him and mouths, "Take me with you," but Marco only shakes his head. Marco stops for a second when he sees Fire Fist's eyes on him and sighs. What are you looking at? You don't say yoy, Fire Fist says with a frown, as if he's just figuring it out. What? Oh yeah, he doesn't, Straw Hat says, looking surprised. I didn't notice. Like, Fire Fist ignores his brother and continues. You don't end your sentences with yoi. Why would I do that? Marco looks confused and Thatch isn't much better. Fire Fist shrugs. Or Marco says it. Weird. Marco sighs and Ace thinks that he's probably about as done with the pirate strangeness as Ace is. Look, I'm going to be late for work. Thatch, you ready? Just waiting on you, Thatch says and grabs his stuff. They head out the door after saying goodbye to everyone. Fire Fist stares as the door swings shut before turning to Ace. Where do they work anyways? Ace takes the empty plates away and puts them in the sink. He'd wash them another time, probably. Shipyard. We all do. Even you. Yeah, Ace says and goes to the couch, only to have the two pirates join him. He turns on the TV and immediately Straw Hat flocks to it, ohing and awing at whatever is on the screen. Is it too much to hope that they'd be distracted by the TV for an entire day? Knowing Luffy's attention span, he doesn't think so. But I'm confined to bed rest for the next week because I'm still hurt. Fire Fist looks at his bruises and healing cuts. He scrunches his nose up. You call that hurt? Ace ignores him. Edward Newgate is our boss. He's helped a lot of us out when we were at our lowest. He's the only reason I can even afford sending Luffy to school and being able to stay in this house. He calls us his sons. Fire Fist interrupts and smiles, looking at his hands. It was the same smile he saw back when they were changing his clothes, the one full of resentment and loathing. Yeah, Pops is pretty amazing. Something flashes in Ace's mind. An image of a giant man standing tall, his back unmarred even if the rest of his body was in tatters. A burned flag flies in the distance and he seems to face the whole world, but not once does he falter. Was I a good father? Of course. When Luffy arrives at school that morning, Zoro knows something is off. None of them had seen him since the crash, though they'd all texted to make sure he was okay. Luffy waves off their concerns and tells everyone that he was perfectly fine and that something like that isn't going to bother him. Now, Zoro isn't so sure. It's the way he moves through the halls, laughing but watching his classmates. It's the way he stares off into space during his entire environmental science lecture. It's the way he chatters on about everything and anything that's happened, yet still seems to be holding back. By the time lunch rolls around, Zoro is absolutely sure Luffy isn't telling them everything. Apparently he isn't the only one who notices either. Oi, Luffy, Sanji says as he places down his tray at the cafeteria table. Are you sure you're okay? Luffy looks up from his meal and smiles. I'm all good. The others at the table stare at him. Robin in particular seems worried for his sake. Seeing their looks, Luffy huffs and says, I'm fine, guys. I wasn't hurt that bad and Ace is okay too. He's staying at home for a bit. He's home alone and still injured? Chopper demands and Zoro smirks a bit. Chopper is amazingly smart and dead set on getting into medical school. He comes from a family of doctors and is determined to live up to his name. He's the one everyone went to if they were hurt. He's not. Luffy cuts himself off before he can even finish the sentence and immediately averts his eyes. Zoro is instantly suspicious. Ace is strong. He can take care of himself. He should be with someone, Chopper mutters, but knows nothing can be done. Luffy, Nami says and brings all the attention to her. Are you coming to the Sunny tonight? Frankie and Brooke are still worried. The Sunny was the name they'd given Warehouse 47 that was abandoned after the business funding it went bankrupt. Frankie was the manager when it was running, but even after it closed down, he never really left. Instead, chose to turn it into somewhat of a hangout for the group, equipped with everything a bunch of trouble-finding high schoolers could want. Brooke is an older violinist who stayed with him since he had nowhere else to go. Luffy visibly hesitates for a moment. I should probably head home. Ace might need me to help around the house before Marco and Thatch get back. Robin narrows her eyes at that. While Zoro didn't get along with her at first, she's fit the group rather well. There are times when he definitely appreciates her ability to read people, such as now. Cheer up, guys, Usopp says and shoves a plate of packaged brownies towards the center of the table. My dad packed me some of his super awesome double chocolate brownies. Really, Chopper's attention is taken away from Luffy. Robin opens her books and starts to read again, but Zoro can tell that she's still watching Luffy from the corner of her eye. I want one. From the other side of the table, Nami sighs but smiles. Robin laughs behind her book. Sanji frowns but eats his food and flirts with the ladies. Zoro still can't shake the feeling that there was something amiss. The TV blares in the background, but Fire Fist can't bother to listen to it. Ace disappeared for a nap almost 10 minutes ago and Fire Fist thought it was a good idea at the time, but can't seem to quell his never-ending thoughts. The last 3 days have been a whirlwind of surprise and guilt. The last thing Ace remembers is fading. Thank you for loving me. He remembers Luffy's face, Oyaji and all his brothers and sisters so desperately fighting to save his life, only for him to throw it away. He doesn't regret it, not by a long shot, but knowing that his family died for nothing still leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. For him, only 3 days have passed. For Luffy, 2 years have gone by. Fire Fist wonders how everyone reacted. Did Daden cry? Did Luffy break down? Did the Marines celebrate? He wonders what happened to Marco and the rest of his crew, the ones that were able to survive. Luffy told him about the Grudge War, and thinking about it makes his blood boil. He should have been there. He should have been there to help fight with his family. Luffy, would it be Straw Hat? That sounded too weird, and his head hasn't talked much about his adventures, and the last time Fire Fist heard about him, it was because of his shitty Gramps giving him updates while he got his ass thrown in prison. Fire Fist, more than anything, wishes he could have seen his brother's adventures for himself. And he just left his little brother to fend for himself right as he was about to enter the new world. His little brother that went through hell to save him, to make sure he kept his promise. I will never die. He just left him like it was easy. He stares at the scar on his little brother's chest and wonders how he could make that decision so easily. Stupid, 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 Fire Fist mutters, and Straw Hat looks up, confused. Ace, Fire Fist grabs his hair, and memories from the war flood his mind. He curls up, unable to face his little brother. God, Luffy, I'm so sorry. Straw Hat is silent for a moment. Are we talking about the war? What else would we be talking about? Fire Fist smiles bitterly and bites his tongue so hard he draws blood. I left you alone. An image of a little 7-year-old boy comes rushing to his mind, covered in scratches and bandages. Tears fell, and a straw hat that was too big stood proudly on his head. Being alone is worse than being hurt. And suddenly Straw Hat is there, pulling him out of his shell. He pulls Fire Fist into a hug with a small laugh. He's tearing down his walls just like he did all those years ago, back when they were young and free and never afraid to face a challenge. Straw Hat smiles at him, small but genuine. After the war, I was really lost. Jinbei helped me remember that I wasn't alone. I still had my Nakama and, well, Sabo is still alive. All the grief and loss that Fire Fist was feeling before stops because there was no way that Sabo, their only other brother who died when they were 7, was still alive. What? Straw Hat laughs. Yeah, it really surprised me. Turns out he had amnesia. He's second in command for the revolutionaries now. He ate your fruit, too. Fire Fist doesn't exactly understand how that works. He still has his fruit and knows that two people can't exist with the same power. He knows he died in his world, but is he really still dead? Fire Fist is still having problems comprehending the fact that his dead brother is actually not dead. To be fair, he isn't quite dead either, and he really died. In front of everyone. Fire Fist guesses that it's just really, really hard to kill them. That, or they had the luck of the devil. Explain, Fire Fist demands. We were in Dressrosa to take out Mingo. In Torao and I. Straw Hat launches into the tale of how he defeated, about the tournament for his fruit, about how Sabo showed up and switched places with him so he could go kick Mingo's ass. He talks about how Sabo saved him while he was fighting, and then they met up later. When he's done, Fire Fist just stares. Sabo is a moron. When I see him, I'm going to kill him. Fire Fist says instead, because just thinking about it was starting to hurt his brain. Straw Hat grins. No, you won't. You're right. I'll just break his damn nose. But he's laughing, wild and free. He can't seem to keep the grin off of his face because his brother is alive, and he is alive, and Luffy is alive. Almost everything is okay. We'll be okay. Ace fiddles with the piece of paper in his hands. It's torn and burned, but the message is still written clearly. One Piece does exist. Ace remembers that the police had found it at the accident and were going to use it as evidence to find the driver. Ace still hasn't heard anything back, and now he finds the piece of paper on his dresser after he wakes up from his nap. Ace immediately suspects that the pirates have something to do with it. What he knows of their world is limited to the flashes of memories from the crash, the voices, and the fact that apparently eating a fruit gives them superpowers. They haven't talked a lot about their pasts or their adventures. He stumbles out of his room, tired and groggy, holding the piece of paper like a lifeline. When he enters the living area, he sees Fire Fist and Straw Hat curled up, fast asleep. Straw Hat is sprawled out over the left side of the couch, arm hanging off of it and stretching past what normal arms should be able to stretch. He almost feels bad for waking them up. Then he remembers that these two are the biggest cause of stress in his life since he was a little kid. These two, who have broken possibly every single law of physics, who seem to have no problem shattering his brain over and over again. And he has no problem pushing his double off the couch. Of course it's not that simple, because his double keeps snoring. Ace sighs and goes to Straw Hat instead, shaking him awake. Straw Hat yawns, blinking up at him. Ace, oh, you're the other one. Yeah, sorry for waking you, Ace says, and Straw Hat sits up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. I have a question actually. Okay. Straw Hat barely glances at Fire Fist, who is still on the floor and still very much asleep. What's One Piece? I dunno, Straw Hat says, and Ace sighs because of course they wouldn't know. He's about let them go back to sleep when Straw Hat continues, "No one knows. We don't even know if it exists." So, Ace says, "It's something from your world?" "Yeah." Straw Hat grins and he seems so excited. It's a legendary treasure that's at the end of the Grand Line. With some prompting, Ace eventually gets Straw Hat to launch into a tale about his world, talking about the old pirate king. He talks about the paradise and the new world, how their world was mostly ocean, so not being able to swim was a huge deal. He talks about whales the size of mountains, sky islands, zombies, dragons, devil fruits, and other places that Ace thought only existed in fantasy stories. He talks about the 4 emperors that rule the seas and the samurai and the minks. He talks about the mystery of the ancient history and poneglyphs. It's a mystery stone. Tashishi. Fire Fist wakes up a few minutes later and starts helping Straw Hat describe their world. He talks about the world government and what they've done. He tells Ace about his and Straw Hat's childhood. Fire Fist talks about the revolutionaries and Straw Hat butts in with news about Sabo, who is apparently not as dead as Ace originally thought. All of it makes Ace's head spin because, damn, their world was complicated. Straw Hat Luffy escaped his grasps and Blackbeard is not happy. It's no secret that he has been collecting devil fruits. After acquiring Whitebeard's fruit, Blackbeard's next course of action was to get as many devil fruits as he could. So he went around, hunting down powerful fruits and killing their users. It was working well, until suddenly it wasn't. During his fight with Monkey D. Luffy, something went wrong. A fruit that he'd recently acquired acted up and shot the both of them. It was a mistake. A very, very costly mistake. He wakes up in a world not like his own, yet eerily similar. He meets up with his counterpart in this world, only to discover that his counterpart was a gang leader, an influential one, but nowhere near Blackbeard's level of strength, which seems even more monstrous in this world, where fruits didn't exist and technology far advanced their own. It's confusing, but Blackbeard can work with this. As long as Straw Hat Luffy dies, then all would be fine. But then Straw Hat Luffy had to throw another wrench in his plans. A spy came back and told of the impossible. Fire Fist Ace is alive. Blackbeard doesn't know how. He saw Fire Fist die, yet here he was in another dimension. Monkey D. Luffy, Blackbeard can handle, but Monkey D. Luffy and Porcus D. Ace, there was no way. Blackbeard knows the limits on his strength. Damn it, Blackbeard's counterpart, Teach, they decided on, mutters. They were supposed to die in the crash. Blackbeard snorts. There is no way that either of those two would die in something as small as that. This is your fault. Anyhow, Teach gives him a strange look that Blackbeard ignores. This is not my fault. You're oddly pompous for someone who should not even be here. Blackbeard lashes out before Teach has a single moment to react, grasping his shirt collar and lifting him up so he was eye level. His darkness swirls around his feet, casting shadows on the walls. I could kill you in less than a second. I don't care if you're my counterpart. Do you understand? Teach mutters a small yes and Blackbeard drops him, watching him crumple to the floor. The surrounding people back away in fear. Listen up, Blackbeard shouts, and not a single person utters a word. I am your boss now and you will listen to me. First, we're going to break into this world's Impel Down. Prison break is the best recruitment, after all. Then, we're going to kill 2 troublesome brats that should have died a long time ago. Miles away, both Straw Hat and Fire Fist jolt awake, eyes wide. Ace looks at them, confused. What's up? He's coming. Something is wrong with Luffy, Zoro says. The entire group is settled around the small table in the warehouse, minus Luffy who went home. No shit, Usopp says. He was just in a car crash. In the hospital. Luffy's in the hospital all the time. Remember when he broke his leg last year? Nami sighs. He didn't seem all that different at lunch. Nami, Robin says, tilting her head to the side and setting her book on the worn wood. You didn't notice. I thought it was quite obvious. Something's up with Luffy, bro. Frankie says, more like shouts, because he can never talk at a normal volume. Nami ignores him and looks at Robin. What was obvious, exactly? He was spaced out, Zoro says instead. Wasn't talking as much. Didn't finish his lunch. That got the group's attention. Luffy was easily the glutton of the group. For him not to finish his lunch was unheard of. You're kidding, Sanji narrows his eyes. Something must be bothering him, Brooks says before returning to fiddle with his violin. I have a bad feeling about this, Chopper mutters, quietly fiddling with his phone. Everyone stops what they're doing to look at him. Chopper's instincts, like Luffy's, are nothing to laugh at. It's dark. Dark, yeah, Chopper says. And I think it's connected to Luffy. Around midday, Ace turns on the news. There has been a massive break into one of the top prisons in the US, Impel Down. Police are saying it's Marshal D. Teach, a notorious underworld leader, that lead the attack and is... What's going on? Fire Fist says as he walks in the living area, holding a tube of Pringles, sour cream and onion too. Damn, Ace was going to eat those later. Straw Hat trots in a moment later, holding Ace's bag of Doritos. Of course, watching the news, Ace tells them as they both join him on the couch. Police are unsure of how all the damage is caused. though some suspect a bomb was used. The news station flashes to pictures from the attack, the perpetrator clearly visible among all the rubble. Hey, Straw Hat shouts and points to the TV. His voice is hard, angry. That's Blackbeard. Fire Fist squints at the screen before his eyes go wide. You're right. Blackbeard, the one who sent you here. Are you sure that's not his double? No, Fire Fist says. That's him all right. I doubt yours would be able to wreck a prison as much as that. You're Blackbeard. Is he strong? Fire Fist doesn't look at him. He is. But this is bold, even for him. You think something is happening, Ace says, and it's not a question. Fire Fist nods. I don't know what he's planning, but it's nothing good. Ace hears the front door open, accompanied by the sound of Luffy's voice. I'm home, he shouts. Ace pauses his conversation with Thatch and Marco to call for his brother from the living room. Luffy happily walks in and drops his heavy backpack on the floor before collapsing on Ace's lap with a sigh. Thatch grins and ruffles his hair. How was school? Good, Luffy says. I'm hungry. Ah, man, I completely forgot to go to the store, Ace says and slaps his forehead. He knew he forgot something. We'll order takeout, Marco says. Ace looks at him incredulously. Do you know how much that's going to cost? Speaking of, Thatch says. Where are our 2 resident pirates, anyways? It's oddly quiet. That is a good point. This entire day had been anything but quiet, minus when the 2 fell asleep for an hour or so. They were here just a minute ago. Maybe we should go look for them. Our house is 1,000 square feet, with almost no backyard. How the hell did we lose 2 people? Just as Marco says that, a crash came from one of the bedrooms. Ace jumps to his feet and is about to investigate when something literally flies out of the hallway and crashes on the couch, not 2 feet from where Ace was sitting. Ace yelps and whirls around in just enough time to see Straw Hat push himself up, blood dripping from a split lip. Ace's gut drops in his stomach. Their earlier conversation coming to mind. Was Blackbeard attacking them already? How did they find them? Was he? Fire Fist comes out of the hallway, grinning smugly. Trained for 2 years and that's all you got? Wait, not at all. Straw Hat tells him and grins right back. His fists are black and raised in the direction of his brother. In return, Fire Fist raises his own, covered in fire. Are you fighting? Thatch yelps just as the 2 pirates rush at each other, faster than Ace can keep up with. They trade blows, blocking and dodging. Straw Hat was much nimbler and much faster, while Fire Fist had the power behind his blows. Fire Fist misses his next punch and Ace's coffee table is suddenly on fire. Ace stares. What is going on? He vaguely recognizes Marco getting Thatch and Luffy and pushing them back. But all Ace can do is stare at his poor coffee table that is now burning in a fiery inferno. Then Fire Fist takes Straw Hat's stretched arm and promptly flings him into a wall. That breaks Ace's trance. His eyes are wide as he stares at Fire Fist and then at Straw Hat, who is on the floor next to his wall which has a very large hole in it. His other self just killed his brother. Fire Fist stalks forward and Ace has just enough sense to jump in front of him to stop him from getting close. He doesn't want to look at Luffy's double, no doubt with a broken spine. His wall has a hole in it, his coffee table is still on fire and his double is a murder. Ace is not having a good day. Move out of my way, Fire Fist says with a grin as if he didn't just murder his little brother. His left cheek has a nasty bruise already starting to form and he's covered in sweat. Oh, a voice mutters behind him. Fire Fist, that hurt. Give up, Fire Fist says mockingly. Hell no, Straw Hat says. I didn't even get to use my gears yet. Ace turns, eyes wide to see a very much alive Straw Hat sitting on the ground, surrounded by rubble from his wall. You're not dead, Ace says. Straw Hat looks at him, confused. Why would I be? Ace sees Thatch, Marco and Luffy peeking their head out from the kitchen. He stares at Straw Hat, then at his wall. Fire Fist scrunches his nose up. Why are you so worried? White-hot anger curls in his gut. Fire Fist talks like there wasn't a possibility that his brother could have gotten hurt, like they weren't just trading punches. To disregard his brother's safety like that. Oh, man, I don't know, maybe the fact that flinging people into walls kills them. Ace practically growls. We were just sparring, Straw Hat says, standing up and dusting himself off. He looks perfectly fine, not even flinching as he pops his treasured straw hat back on his head. Thatch says, coming out of the kitchen once he sees that the fighting is done. Ace turns his glare to his roommate. New rule, no sparring in this house. Actually, you 2 probably shouldn't spar in this world. How are we supposed to train? Fire Fist demands. Why are you so obsessed with training? Ace snaps, whirling on his double. Thatch takes a step back at his tone and even Straw Hat looks a little uncomfortable. We have to be. Fire Fist snaps right back. If we don't, we die. Our friends die. Our family dies. Look, I don't know much about your world, but in our world it's not like that. You don't have to be fucking superhuman to survive. Ace yells, getting up in his double's face. The room is almost silent, tense. No one else speaks. Have you ever seen your family die for you because they're too weak? Fire Fist's voice is low, challenging Ace. Seen your Nakama murdered right in front of you because you were a second too late. Have you ever seen your brother fight in a war for your sake because you weren't strong enough to avoid getting captured in the first place? Maybe if you had, then you'd know why we have to become stronger. Marco comes up and pushes them apart before Ace can respond. Both Ace and Fire Fist turn to glare at him, ready to protest, but Marco cuts them off before either of them can say anything. That's enough. We should probably clean up, Marco says. Fine. Fire Fist snaps shortly, before taking a step back and sighing. He pinches the bridge of his nose, all anger seemingly gone. Sorry, that was unnecessary. Not it's okay, Ace says and sighs too. Just culture shock, I guess. Our worlds are different, Fire Fist agrees. He seems tired. Ace can see the stress in his body. For future reference, it'll takes a lot more to hurt us. I've been flung through brick buildings and gotten up without a scratch. That's not possible. Fire Fist grins at him, but his eyes are soft. Different world, remember? We're strong, don't worry about us. You guys are not human, Thatch tells them. Luffy rushes out of the kitchen, energy abundant and all smiles. He runs up to his double, then Fire Fist. That's so cool. Teach me how to fight. Marco clears his throat and gestures to the debris all over the living room. Fire Fist gives him a guilty smile. Later, if Marco here doesn't kill us first, my insurance is going to kill me. Ace stares at his wall, then his coffee table and resigns himself to his fate. Even after everyone has gone to sleep, Fire Fist is still awake. The house is eerily silent and he can't sleep, plagued by too many memories of his past, of his friends. No matter what he does, how much he fights it, the flashes of the war always come back. Hey, Luffy, Fire Fist whispers, you up? Yeah. Straw Hat yawns and shifts on the bed. Fire Fist sighs. They're going to hate me if I get back. Your crew. Yeah, I don't know how I'll ever face them. They don't hate you, Straw Hat says. He shifts to look at Fire Fist. They're hurting more than you can imagine. So you've met them? Yep, Straw Hat grins. Marco and them helped me with Kaido. He's my friend now. I like them a lot. I can see why you joined them. Fire Fist sighs and buries his face in his pillow. He allows a small, watery smile to come across his face. Yeah, they're pretty amazing. Ace, Straw Hat says. There's something in his tone that makes Fire Fist look up. It's not your fault. It is. No, Straw Hat cuts him off. Listen to me. It's not your fault and they know that. They're your friends and they miss you. No one blames you. Fire Fist chokes on a sob, forcing his tears down. He tries to imagine their faces in much happier times, but it's hard. 2 years is a long time. He wonders how they've changed. Wondered if they hurt just as much as he does. Then, he glances at Straw Hat's scar and decides that he doesn't want to know. He thinks of all the fun he had on the Moby Dick. He thinks of Thatch and Marco and all the other commanders. He thinks of Oyaji. He thinks of prank he pulled, every island they explored, every sea they sailed. It hurts. Straw Hat smiles like he understands. I'm glad you're alive, Ace. What am I like? Marco asks out of the blue and Fire Fist is jolts out of his thoughts. He looks around the room, thinking Marco was talking to someone else. Yes, Fire Fist, I'm talking to you. To me, Fire Fist asks, just to make sure. Yes, you. Marco sighs and whacks his arm. Fire Fist laughs at the familiarity of the action. Let's see. Fire Fist thinks about it for a second, remembering his Marco. He blocks out the memories from the war and instead focuses on all the good memories. My Marco was the one who carried my unconscious ass back to the ship after Oyaji beat the shit out of me. Why would he do that? Fire Fist rubs the back of his head and gives a strained laugh. I tried to kill him. Multiple times. Anyways, he says before Marco has time to interrupt with more questions. My Marco was a hard ass, but is one of the greatest pirates to sail the seas. He wants to be free more than anyone and Oyaji provided him that opportunity. He's been Oyaji's right-hand man since day one. And he ends his sentences with yoi. Why? Hell if I know, Fire Fist says with a grin. He was always the crew's mother hen, both figuratively and literally. What? He turns into a giant blue chicken that's on fire. Fire Fist says, with as straight of a face as possible, seeing the incredulous look on Marco's face. Fire Fist bursts into laughter. Just kidding. God, you should have seen your face. I never know with how strange your world is, Marco says in return. He does turn into a phoenix, Ace tells him. That's his devil fruit power. He's strong too. I was never able to beat him. He and Thatch were the first to really make me feel at home with the crew. He's my best friend. You miss him then? Marco asks and Fire Fist sighs because yes, he missed his crew. Seeing Thatch and Marco's faces reminds him of that. He misses his family. I miss all of them, Fire Fist says instead. He's determined to see them again. Luffy, Ace calls as he walks around the house. Luffy looks up from his spot at the table, surrounded by several different papers and a calculator. Are you doing homework? Yeah, Luffy calls back before returning to his stack of papers and furiously writing. Fire Fist, who'd been lounging on the bar stool and chatting with Straw Hat, hops off to peer over Luffy's shoulder. This seems vile. Straw Hat follows and looks over Luffy's other shoulder. This looks boring. It is. Luffy agrees, pouting, but doesn't take his eyes off of his work. I don't want to do it. Then don't do it. Straw Hat says like it's that simple. He needs to. Marco interrupts. You're a terrible role model. Pirate, remember. Fire Fist grins. I gotta do my homework if I want to keep up my GPA and get into a good college, Luffy says, and then flops dramatically on the papers, sending a few fluttering to the floor. But why do that? It sounds terrible. Because, Ace interrupts, sliding in the seat next to Luffy. Fire Fist glances once at the stack of papers and shakes his head. Not everyone can drop everything and sail the ocean on a pirate ship with all their friends and visit magical islands full of adventure. At least pirates don't have homework. It's not that bad, Luffy says. Sometimes it's fun, but Mr. Cusin likes to assign lots of packets that are always hard. Cusin? Fire Fist looks like he's thinking before whirls around, eyes wide. You mean Aokiji? Are you kidding? He's my math teacher, Luffy says bluntly. Aokiji is your math teacher, Fire Fist says, like he doesn't believe it. Yep, Luffy pops the P and rolls his pencil between his fingers. He's pretty chill most of the time. Straw Hat suddenly bursts into laughter and Fire Fist starts chokes on air. Within seconds, both are rolling on the floor, tears in their eyes. Ace exchanges glances with Luffy, Marco, and Thatch, unsure how to react. Minutes go by and their pearls of laughter fade into chortles and giggles. Why are you laughing? Thatch asks once they've calmed down. Straw Hat snorts like he's trying to keep another laugh in. Aokiji ate a nice devil fruit in our world, Fire Fist explains as he picks himself up off the floor. He froze Robin and I saw it once, Straw Hat says and doesn't elaborate. Fire Fist stares at his brother for a good few seconds before shaking his head. I feel like it would be better for my health if I don't hear that story. Anyways, he's literally made out of ice. Loja fruit, hard to fight if you don't know what you're doing. What's this? Fire Fist picks up a piece of paper from the pile and scans the words on the page. Straw Hat peers at it from over his shoulder for a moment before deciding that whatever in on the paper is not enough to hold his attention, goes to sit on one of the seats surrounding the table. An English assignment, Luffy tells him and grins. I don't understand what it says, Fire Fist says and places the piece of paper down on the table. Thatch picks up the piece of paper and gives it a once-over before giving Fire Fist a weird look. Can you even read? Fire Fist laughs but nods. I mean, yeah, you have to read if want to know what the government says about you and, well, I had paperwork that I had to do as a division commander. I'm not the best at it. Straw Hat can only read a bit. Makino and Sabo couldn't get him to focus long enough to explain full lessons. My Nakama read the papers for me, Straw Hat says when everyone looks at him. Weird, Ace says. Sue, Thatch slides next to Fire Fist. Fire Fist stops for a second, tensing because Thatch was dead. But then remembers just where he is a size. Different world, different Thatch. One that Teach hadn't murdered in cold blood. Fire Fist plans to keep it that way. I really died in your world? Thatch asks, unsure. Fire Fist sees a flash of Thatch's body, cold and covered in blood, face first on the deck. Remembers the medics rushing around. Remembers the tears of his friends. Remembers when Thatch was declared dead and Teach a traitor. It was the start of Fire Fist's personal hell. Murdered, Fire Fist says and takes a deep breath. You were murdered. By who? Something painful curls in Fire Fist's gut. Blackbeard? Teach. You guys seem to have a lot of problems with this guy, Thatch says and Fire Fist can't look him in the eye. Too many what-if scenarios play in his head whenever he does. He looks at this Thatch but sees his Thatch, his friend. He sees the one that used to run around the Modi Dick causing chaos in all of his wake. The one that would wake up hours before everyone else just to make sure the entire ship was fed. The one that laughed at corny jokes and made friends with everyone he could. The one that died with his blood staining the very ship he called home. We didn't always. He used to be my friend. Our friend. Fire Fist doesn't like to think of the traitor like that. He wishes he'd known what that man was capable of. Teach was a part of his division. Teach is his responsibility. Fire Fist grips the sides of his arms so hard they bleed. You found a devil fruit and Blackbeard wanted it. He stabbed you in the back during the middle of the night while he was on watch. I couldn't do anything. Thatch looks at him for a long time before sighing. You think my death was your fault? Not just your death, Fire Fist says. All of his family dying for him at Marineford came to mind. Where's JR? Oyaji. Teach was a part of my division. And I wasn't strong enough to defeat him. You don't have to be strong all the time, you know. Thatch's look isn't quite pity. He gives Fire Fist a sad smile that Fire Fist doesn't return. In my world, Fire Fist laughs but there's no humor in his tone. If you're not strong, you die. Thatch sighs. People in your world, they don't live very long, do they? No, Fire Fist agrees, remembering strong brothers and an even stronger father. Not as long as they should. I need out of this house. Fire Fist groans into the couch. I am a pirate. I am free. I cannot stay cramped up in here any longer. Fine, then you can go shopping with me, Ace says, barely glancing up from his newspaper. It's been 8 days since the pirates appeared out of nowhere, and Ace is pretty proud of how used to them that he's gone. Luffy's already at school, and Marco and Thatch left for work a few hours ago. It's a routine at this point. Hey, Straw Hat, do you want to come? Straw Hat jumps in the air, rubber fists flying. No, Fire Fist says immediately. His tone leaves almost no room for argument. He'll destroy the place, trust me. Ace really doesn't want to have to pay for any destruction that the two cause. He knows they can cause a lot of property damage. His coffee table and wall are proof of that. Ace really does not want to get arrested, no matter how much the two try and convince him that it's not that bad. He isn't a criminal, thank you very much. If you're leaving, then I want to leave too. Straw Hat protests. No, you stay here. Fire Fist says. I don't want to be alone here, I want an adventure. We'll take you to the park once we get back, okay. Ace tries to be the voice of reason for the two. Both look at him, one with a frown and one with an approving smile. Otherwise you're not going at all, Fire Fist adds on. The two pirates stare each other down. An unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Ace thinks, but doesn't dare say out loud. Straw Hat finally relents with a huff. Fine. But I want to explore the park later. Yes, let's go. Fire Fist pumps his fists in the air. Straw Hat goes to sulk in the living room, probably hoping to be entertained by the TV. Fire Fist is about to run out the door, but Ace catches his shoulder before he can. First, put on a shirt. Why do you walk half naked anyways? Fire Fist grins at him but hesitates. Style. Okay, right. Your style is going to get me arrested, so you're going to be wearing a shirt. Ace pinches the bridge of his nose. This isn't the first time he'd tried to convince the pirate to wear a shirt, and probably wouldn't be the last. Also, you look exactly like me. So, Ace says, you need a disguise. 10 minutes later, with the help of Straw Hat, Fire Fist looks like a completely new person. He also looks, for lack of better words, pretty terrible. But it'll work and no one will suspect they look the same. Ace is lucky that Thatch leaves around various articles of clothing and hair gel. Fire Fist looks in the mirror. This is terrible. Quit complaining, Ace says as he grabs his keys off the counter. Fire Fist is still looking at himself in the mirror, and Straw Hat is laughing from the couch. I don't want to have to explain to everyone why you have my face. I have your face. You have my face. My world, my face. Let's go, dumbass. Ace pushes Fire Fist out the door. You know you're calling yourself a dumbass, right? Fire Fist says and grins at him. Ace pushes him towards the car and scowls. Fire Fist takes on look at the machine and stops. Ace tries to keep pushing him, but if Fire Fist doesn't want to be moved, then there was no way someone like Ace could move him. Those abs aren't for show. That thing looks like a giant metal death machine. Are you kidding me? How does it work? Fire Fist still isn't budging, so Ace sighs and shrugs before clambering in the driver's side. Ace, you come sit in this nice seat over here and I drive. Seeing the look on Fire Fist's face, Ace says, I'm a good driver, it's fine. If you say so. Hesitantly, Fire Fist climbs in the passenger side and stares at all the buttons. Ace starts of the car and Fire Fist jumps. Seatbelt, Ace tells him, and then buckles it for him because he already knows that the pirate would have no idea how to do it anyway. Oh, Ace is going to have so much fun with this. That's him, isn't it? Luffy's eyes widen as he stares out the classroom window. He'd been dozing during his English lecture, but now he couldn't be more awake. Fire Fist and Straw Hat's descriptions fit him to a T. Large, bushy-haired, looks like a pirate. Black captain's coat draped over his shoulders with different colored beads around his neck. Blackbeard. He's talking to someone that Luffy can't see, laughing and making gestures towards the school. Luffy feels his stomach drop and suddenly the room feels like it was on fire. Zoro glances at him, worried. Luffy, you okay? Zoro whispers. Luffy doesn't hear him and stands up. 20 other eyes are on him, but all he can think about is how bad the situation was. I'm going to the restroom. He takes off down the hallways before his teacher can say a single word. What is he doing here? That is the man that scarred both Fire Fist and Straw Hat. The man that murdered Thatch in their world. Who murdered Ace's boss. Luffy runs out of the building and around, careful not to be seen by any classroom windows. The last thing he needs is for the teachers to catch him before he can get too far. He didn't need to get in trouble with the principal again. The first time is enough, and right now, Luffy needs to be there. It would very well be life or death. Luffy has to stop him before he could hurt anyone ever again. Luffy skids to a halt right outside the alley. Carefully, he creeps closer, trying to listen to the two of them. He can no longer see Blackbeard nor the person he's talking to. Two boys. He hears someone scoff. There's a laugh and Luffy tries not to shiver. Something about it is eerily familiar. It echoes in his head. Underestimating those boys will get you and your men killed. I'm the one being underestimated, Blackbeard, the voice says. You might have my men and your powers, but I know this world better than you. Watch, I'll get rid of your problem. Luffy hears footsteps coming out of the alley and he panics, looking around for a spot to hide. Quickly, he slips behind a bush a little way away, careful not to make a single sound. The footsteps continue on until Luffy can't hear them anymore and he sighs a breath of relief. That was close. He steps out from behind the bush and walks into the alleyway, forgetting that there was one more person that he had to worry about. Well, isn't this a surprise? Fancy seeing you here, Straw Hat Luffy. Luffy takes a step back in alarm as a man emerges, quite literally, from the shadows. The man narrows his eyes after looking at him. You aren't Straw Hat. You must be this world's Straw Hat. The darkness swirls around the man's feet like a living creature, encompassing the entire alleyway. Luffy stands there, terrified. No matter, Blackbeard says and approaches closer, and closer and closer. It's your funeral too. Blackbeard shoots out his hand and black tendrils snake out, aiming right for Luffy. It's only by the skin on his teeth that Luffy dodges, panting heavily. Luffy watches in horror as the tendrils continue towards a brick building only to cut right through it. He can't defeat this man. He has to warn everyone. Luffy scrambles to his feet, fight or flight response taking hold. His only thought is run, run, run. He sprints out of the alley, ignoring the cackle from behind him. He doesn't know where to go, where he could be safe from this monster. Wait, he does have a safe place. The warehouse. Luffy changes direction and sprints towards it. He's thanking whatever deity is up there for Ace making him sign up for cross-country. He rushes past pedestrians, pushing and shoving his way through. By the time he's near the docks, his lungs are burning and his legs are shaking. He throws open the steel doors and slams them shut before running into the main space of the building. Frankie, Brooke, he calls, but there's no answer. Luffy tries not to cry because of all the times they could have gone shopping. I'm impressed, Straw Hat, a voice from behind him says, and Luffy feels his stomach drop. He slowly turns and there, completely unharmed and not even winded, was Blackbeard. You're still as slippery as ever, but not enough. The darkness shoots out and grabs a hold of Luffy's ankles. He falls on his butt, staring up at the monster with wide eyes. The darkness wraps around his torso and lifts him in the air. Luffy tries not to scream, fear overcoming every inch of his body. He is going to die. Blackbeard approaches him, agonizingly slowly. Every move of his is that of a predator that knows that its prey is already beaten. The darkness swirls around him and constricts around Luffy. He chokes, trying to breathe. Now die, Blackbeard says, and Luffy shuts his eyes. Luffy. Luffy hears a crack and feels the darkness around him drop him to the ground. Luffy coughs, but has enough sense to scramble as far away from Blackbeard as he can. He looks up, only to see the man covered in what looks like ... eggs. A hand yanks him back and Luffy looks up to see Zoro glaring at Blackbeard. His wooden training sword is in his grasp and he raises it threatening towards the monster. Behind him, the rest of his friends take up fighting stances. Usopp loads his slingshot with another egg. You guys, Luffy whispers, horrified. This wasn't their problem. They shouldn't have gotten involved. He didn't want to watch them die. Talk to us next time. Luffy, Zoro says, his voice calm and collected even in the chaos. We're your friends. We'll help no matter what. This guy has powers, Usopp says, and his voice is quivering. Like actual fucking superpowers. Doesn't matter, we can beat him, Sanji says. Yeah, Chopper echoes, but it comes out as more of a peep. 9 against 1 doesn't seem too bad. Nami agrees, holding up a wooden staff. If someone is trying to kill you, just let us know, Luffy bro. Frankie shouts while Brooke and Robin laugh. We'll beat the shit out of them. Blackbeard wipes the egg off his face and grins. How touching, but you're going to have to do better than eggs and wooden swords to defeat me. Luffy is missing. Ace gets a call from the school saying that his little brother left without any warning. He disrupted class, caused 2 others to follow him, and has not been seen since second period. Ace is trying not to freak out. On top of that, Ace's car is missing, stolen, most likely. Ace and Fire Fist are forced to roam the streets, looking for Ace's missing little brother. He's not picking up his phone at all, which only makes Ace more worried. Luffy never misses calls. We'll find him, Fire Fist says and places a hand on Ace's shoulder. Can't you do your little ESP thing to find him? Ace asks instead. You mean Haki? Wherever Luffy is, he's not in my range, Fire Fist says before he stops. His eyes widen. Actually, Straw Hat isn't either. What does that mean? It means that Straw Hat isn't at your house anymore. So weak, Blackbeard says and sighs, as if he's bored. He takes a step forward and Luffy forces himself to his feet, even if his entire body is screaming at him to stop. He knows he can't take much more of this. But then he glances behind him to see all of his friends, beaten and bloody. He knows that if he falls, they all die. Luffy knows that they don't have much time left. Blackbeard is toying with them. Give up yet? Blackbeard sneers as he starts taking steps forward. No, Luffy has trouble finding his voice, but he won't back down. I won't let you touch my friends. You're still the same as ever, Blackbeard says and laughs. Behind him, his friends flinch at the sound. Zoro tries to push himself to his feet as well, but can't seem to find his footing. Nami is crying, trying to call for help but can't. Luffy raises his hand and throws a sloppy punch at Blackbeard. Blackbeard easily catches his fist and with little movement, flicks Luffy over his shoulder. Luffy lands on the ground, hard. His back explodes in pain and his head throbs. A cry of, "Luffy, watch out," has him trying to move, but he's not fast enough. Blackbeard kicks his stomach and Luffy gasps. The darkness wraps around his body and yanks him to his feet so he's face to face with that monster. "It's been fun," Blackbeard says and grins, missing teeth and all. "But I have a schedule to keep after all." He holds out his palm and the darkness swirls and solidifies in it. Luffy pants and tries to move, but his body is spent. So this is how he's going to die. By a pirate not from this world that has a grudge against him in an alternate dimension. Luffy closes his eyes, waiting for the inevitable blow to come. He feels Teach tense, no doubt prepared to strike and, "Oi," a new, yet familiar voice ring out, coming from somewhere up on the ceiling. "Pick on someone who can actually fight you, you bastard." Luffy cracks open his eyes, seeing Blackbeard turn his head with a scowl. And suddenly he isn't there anymore. Someone else is standing above him, a fist outstretched and a wide grin on his very familiar face. "Yo," Straw Hat says. "Need a hand?" When Ace shows up at his house, all he can do is stare. Bright fire surrounds the place. The fire truck's already on the scene with their loud sirens blaring. Next to him, Fire Fist gaps. My house," Ace shouts. The situation finally dawned on him. Why the hell is my house on fire? He storms up to the nearest officer, about to give him a piece of his mind, but the police beats him to it. "Please stand back, sir. It's dangerous." But that's my house." Why the hell is his house on fire? The only person that was in the house at the time was Straw Hat. But even if their doubles are destructive, there's no way he would accidentally set a house on fire. Ace stalks back to where Fire Fist is before the officer can say another word. Fire Fist just stood there, his eyes on the burning house. Straw Hat's not in there. What? Fire Fist is still staring at the house as if he could see something Ace can't. He probably does, considering he can sense human beings miles away. But Ace doesn't know why he seems almost worried. "Shit," Fire Fist suddenly says, his eyes widening in realization. Shit, it's Blackbeard." Ace looks at him, startled. "What?" Blackbeard did this and Fire Fist breaks off. His hand snaps out, grabbing Ace's wrist and pulling him away while muttering curses under his breath. "Whoa, hey." Ace tries to break his wrist free, but to no avail. "What the hell's gotten into you?" "We have to find Luffy," is all Fire Fist says. "What are you talking about?" "Blackbeard is going after your little brother. Stay behind me. He has people outside," Straw Hat says as he takes up a fighting stance. Luffy doesn't have to be told twice, scurrying over to where all of them are piled. They're staring at Straw Hat with wide eyes, glancing between him and Luffy. Luffy would love to explain, but right now there are more pressing matters. "Luffy," Nami shouts as he stumbles down beside them. "What's happening? Who is that?" He looks. "Nami," Luffy says quietly. He wishes that they never got involved in this mess. "I can explain later, but we need to move." He pushes them as far away from Blackbeard and Straw Hat as possible. They duck behind a bunch of empty boxes, staring wide-eyed as Blackbeard pushes himself from the rubble and wipes blood off of his face. "You're a pain in the ass, as always, Straw Hat Luffy," Blackbeard says. Straw Hat raises his fists, coating them in haki. Luffy hears Usopp whimper, "At least I'm not a traitor, Blackbeard." The two launch at each other, and the resounding shockwave is so powerful that it shakes the warehouse. Someone screams, but Luffy isn't sure who it is. Maybe it's him. They start trading blows at such a speed that Luffy can't even follow the fight. A mixture of rubber appendages and darkness engulfs most of the warehouse. Luffy tries to keep his friends as much out of the way as possible. "What the fuck?" Sanji says as they all watch the fight in various degrees of horror. "Luffy, what's going on?" Zoro says, voice quiet. "Oh," Luffy says, because he really doesn't know how to explain it. "You know about the car crash, right?" All of his friends look at him and nod. After it, me and Ace started hearing voices and seeing stuff. We didn't really think much of it at first, but then the storm hit. He ignores Robin's quiet question of what storm. And another Ace and another me showed up. They're from a different world and they're pirates. They sometimes have cool powers because they ate a fruit. I don't remember much. This guy, Blackbeard, he was the one that sent them here. That man who showed up as me. He's you, from another world. Usopp asks like he can't quite believe it. "Luffy, you realize how insane that sounds, right? First superpowers, now another world." Nami grabs her head and scrubs the tears from her eyes. "This isn't possible." Luffy's about to argue when a cry of "watch out" has him rushing out of the way as fast as he's able to move. A dark mass crashes into the spot he was moments before. "Still trying to protect your crew even here." Blackbeard says it like it's a taunt. Straw Hat glares at him and snarls. Neither one of them are in great shape, with blood dripping from various cuts and bruises all over. Blackbeard is missing a few more teeth than normal and Straw Hat's cardigan is sliced up. Leave them out of this, Straw Hat says and sends a flurry of punches. Blackbeard dodges some of them before sending his own attack. A weakness, Blackbeard grins. Before Straw Hat can retort, he sends a blackened mass right at Luffy and his friends. Luffy's eyes widen and he tries to move, but the attack is too big, too strong. There is no way he was going to be able to get out of the way before it hit. Straw Hat jumps in front of them and Luffy has just enough time to open his mouth before Straw Hat takes the hit head on. It has enough force to send him flying backwards into stack of crates, crushing them on impact. Blackbeard laughs as Straw Hat stands up and brushes the debris off of him. Blood dripped down his leg and his torso is a canvas of wounds, but the pirate doesn't seem to notice. "You bastard," Straw Hat says, voice dripping with venom. The entire feeling of the fight changes after that. Blackbeard is suddenly on the offensive and gives no time for Straw Hat to recover. Straw Hat is forced to either dodge or block all the attacks, and even Luffy can see that it's taking its toll. "He's keeping us safe," Luffy realizes with a start. "He can't fight fully because we'll get hurt." The two fighters separate again. Straw Hat is panting heavily, leaning on his left side. At some point he lost his shirt in the fight, leaving the scar on his chest to be proudly displayed. Blackbeard is injured as well, but grinning ear to ear. Luffy knows at this rate, if something doesn't change, then Straw Hat would lose this fight. He would lose this fight and there would be no one left to protect Luffy and his friends. This all happened because he was stupid enough to check out something that he should have stayed away from. He should have listened. His friends would die because of him. Blackbeard lifts his fist as his darkness swirls around. Straw Hat tenses, getting ready for the fight to resume before freezing. Suddenly, Straw Hat grins, wild and happy. He jumps back. Hiken. A shout comes from above and suddenly the warehouse is set ablaze. One of his friends yanks him back as fire curls and flares to life. When the fire fades, Luffy can see that Blackbeard is no longer ready to attack, but instead across the warehouse covered in burns. Another figure lands just feet from Straw Hat and Luffy almost cries in relief. There, standing in all of his blazing glory, is Fire Fist. "Luffy," someone behind him whispers and Luffy whips around only to see his own brother's face. The rest of his friends look at Ace with various stages of relief. Ace yanks him into a hug, looking more worried and relieved than Luffy has ever seen him. "Oh God, I'm so glad you're okay. We have to get out of here." Fire Fist took out the guys outside. "Ace," Chopper shouts and goes to hug Luffy's brother. Ace releases Luffy and hugs the boy back. "Do you know what's going on?" Ace smiles at them sadly. "I do, but worry about that later, okay?" You're supposed to be dead." A voice interrupts and all of them turn to see Blackbeard pushing himself to his feet. "Going to take a little more than a magma fist to kill me apparently." Fire Fist sneers at him. Fire wraps around his shoulders like a blanket. "Traitor." Blackbeard glances at both Straw Hat and Fire Fist before scowling. He seems to realize something because his darkness swirls around him, licking at his ankles almost nervously. He takes a step forward just as both pirates lunge at him, only to dissolve into the shadows of the warehouse. Straw Hat and Fire Fist crash to the floor, empty-handed even though the enemy had been there moments ago. "Damn it." Fire Fist jumps to his feet and the fire around him flares to life. "He got away. He ran." Straw Hat agrees before turning to where Luffy and the others were. "He's not here anymore." "You sure?" Ace calls and Luffy finally feels like he can breathe again. Every part of his body aches, but he's okay. His friends are okay. He's not anywhere near here. "That's for sure," Fire Fist says. He's eyeing Straw Hat, who looks worse for wear but had a grin on his face with his hat firmly planted on his head. "Coward. Knows he can handle both of us, so he ran." Usopp interrupts them before they can continue sounding worse for wear. "Can someone please explain what is going on here?" Ace calls Marco and Thatch to update them on the situation. Then, Ace, Fire Fist, and Straw Hat give Luffy's friends a very detailed and very long explanation there. "They're really pirates." "Hey, you guys are too. You're my crew." "You're what?" "About the other world and demonstrations of their powers." Most of them look on with disbelief, but it's hard to dispute the fact that there are now 2 Luffys and 2 Aces and they somehow have magical powers. In the end, there is nothing else for them to believe. "You guys look different," Straw Hat says as he bounds up to Luffy's friends. He grins as they lean back, weary. Sonya's eyebrow isn't swirly. Chopper's not a reindeer. Frankie's not a cyborg. Robin isn't old and Brooke isn't dead. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Sanji shouts and Straw Hat laughs at them instead of answering. "Don't try and put logic in them together," Ace warns them. "Their world is very different than ours." "To be fair," Fire Fist says and laughs when he sees Sanji try to get answers out of Straw Hat. Straw Hat's adventures are weird even by our world's standard. Luffy-san always gets involved in the most interesting things." Brooke laughs. "By interesting," Nami says and rubs the side of her arm. You mean dangerous, right? I don't think he had a choice in this situation, Frankie says. Robin stares at Straw Hat's chest with a frown. She seemed to be thinking of something, glancing from Straw Hat to Luffy. That scar. Straw Hat turns to look at her and then glances at his chest. The happy smile that he wore only seconds ago fades. He traces the edges, almost lost in thought before he shakes his head and gives her a small smile. It's a reminder of what happens when I'm not strong enough to protect the ones I love. Fire Fist flinches from where he was sitting at Ace's side, and Ace is suddenly reminded of the war that both fought in. Ace wonders how it must feel, sitting on the execution platform as your family fights for your freedom with their lives. Ace has a hard time thinking about his brother fighting, much less fighting in a war for his sake. Straw Hat goes to get up and stretches, wiping blood from his forehead. Ace frowns at him. Hey, sit down. You're heavily injured. Chopper chimes in. Straw Hat looks at him strangely before grinning. Don't worry, I just need food. You're covered in bruises. Your bones should be broken with all that stress. Chopper argues. Oh, Straw Hat grins, exactly like Luffy's. Ace spots the weirded out looks on Luffy's friends' faces. Then I just need milk. You need medical treatment. Look, Ace says, just to calm the high schooler down. I don't know what these guys are made of, but it's tougher than steel. He'll be fine. Anyways, we've got bigger problems to worry about. Like that man, Nami asks. The one with those strange powers. Blackbeard, Fire Fist snarls. Yes, Ace says and sighs. When did his life get so complicated? Blackbeard, the solution is easy. Fire Fist snaps. We track the bastard down, beat the shit out of him and force him to take us back. Then hand his ass over so he can face his crimes in our world. Or we could go to the police and let them handle this. Usopp mutters, but everyone ignores him. So what do we do? Zoro asks them. We, Fire Fist asks, eyebrow raised. You guys go home and not get involved. We want to help. Luffy protests. No, we don't, Usopp squeaks. No offense, but you guys are physically weaker than we are. Fire Fist says, and Ace is very inclined to agree. There was not much a ragtag group of high schoolers, one retired mechanic and an old musician can do. Blackbeard will crush you. What he was doing was barely any of his power. He's defeated me and was the 2nd Division commander of the strongest man in our world. We can still help, Zoro tries to protest. But Fire Fist shakes his head. Blackbeard has killed before, Fire Fist says. He murdered the thatch of our world and won't hesitate to do the same to you guys. You guys should go home, Ace says instead, before an argument can break out. Keep your cell phones on, and if you see anything even mildly suspicious, I want you to call me. Okay. How's that going to help? Frankie asks. These guys. Ace grins and pulls Straw Hat's cheek. Puffy's friends lean back at the casual display of a devil fruit. Are super fucking human and can probably make it across town in 5 minutes. Bless, Fire Fist says proudly. But be careful, Ace warns them. Until this blows over, you guys should stay in your houses. Blackbeard is going after us now. He wants us dead. Also, Ace rounds on Fire Fist and glares at him. Where did your shirt go? Fire Fist glances down at his very naked torso and shrugs. I burned it. You asshole, that was my shirt. I was just letting you borrow it. Marco and Thatch show up at the warehouse 20 minutes later, taking in the damage with wide eyes. Ace has never been so happy to see his friends in his life. Are you guys okay? Thatch asks Luffy's friends while Marco goes to help Chopper check everyone's injuries. Mostly, Robin tells him with a small smile. Getting attacked by a supervillain, Usopp says. Completely normal. Totally. These pirates don't know what normal is, Thatch says and laughs. You get used to it, kind of. Straw Hat's telling a story to anyone who listened, something about fishmen and islands and really big armies. Ace decides that it might be better for his health if he doesn't know and goes to sit with his double, who's watching Straw Hat with a fond smile. Fire Fist glances at Ace. How are you holding up? My car was stolen. Ace mutters and pinches the bridge of his nose. My house burned down. I've been babysitting pirates for the last 2 weeks, and now we want to hunt down a guy with the power of darkness. I am stressed. His counterpart has enough decency to look guilty. It's not like we wanted to be transported here anyways. I guess so, Ace says and sighs because it really wasn't the pirates' fault. They are just as much the victims as Ace is. It was just their universally shitty luck that they ended up here, and it was Ace's universally shitty luck that they ended up with him. We'll search for Blackbeard once everyone is healed, Fire Fist says. Then we'll be out of your hair forever. Yeah, that can't come soon enough. Ace doesn't want to admit it, but the pirates have grown on him. He's going to miss their abnormal eating habits, incredible stories, and destruction of the laws of physics. His house is going to be much quieter without them around. Fire Fist suddenly straightens, alert. From across the room, Straw Hat stops his story and looks up with alarm. Ace tenses, judging the two. They were both looking at the ceiling of the warehouse, weary but not in fighting positions. You feel that? Fire Fist asks Straw Hat. Straw Hat nods his head just as the ceiling explodes in colorful light. Ace is on the floor in minutes and chaos overtakes the room with everyone scrambling to get out of the way. There's a ringing in his ears, so loud that Ace covers his head that was screaming at him to move and leave. As soon as it happens, everything stops. The warehouse goes back to being a normal abandoned warehouse except for a single object now on the floor in the middle of everyone. On the ground is a single, colorful snail. Sanji breaks the silence and approaches the object. A snail, a blue snail. The snail appears to be sleeping, with something metal on the left side of its shell and wires running along its side. It doesn't look to be dangerous, but Ace knows better than to trust things that fell from the sky. It's a Den Den Mushy. Fire Fist breathes, staring at the object with wide eyes. Ace turns to him, questioning, but Fire Fist isn't paying attention to him anymore. He's staring at the snail with an expression that Ace can only describe as awe. Straw Hat picks the sleeping creature up and examines it. There, painted on the machine part of the snail, is a Jolly Roger with a straw hat. Fire Fist's eyes widen. That's plupple. Suddenly the snail is awake and ringing. Ace leans back, unsure. The rest of the group looks just as confused as Ace feels. He knows that Straw Hat mentioned that these were communication devices, but it just seems too weird. Not to mention the fact that it appeared out of the sky. Straw Hat picks up the receiver. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. I'm going to become king of the pirates. Ace stares at the pirate incredulously. Is that really how he answers when someone calls him? Apparently Fire Fist is thinking the same thing because he smacks a hand over his face and sighs. Do you really answer a Den Den Mushy like that? Luffy. Several familiar voices shout back. Straw Hat breaks out into the biggest grin possible. Everyone, it's Luffy. We got a hold of him. A voice shouts and there are cheers on the other end. Guys, Straw Hat shouts. He's practically glowing with happiness now and Ace realizes just how much he missed his crew. Even with his brother, he must have felt lonely. That's us from your world, Sanji asks in disbelief. Talking to a snail that makes faces is probably about the weirdest thing I've ever done, Nami says, and the rest of Luffy's friends echo their agreement. Luffy takes the Den Den Mushy from Straw Hat. You guys are my friends' other selves. Someone on the other side of the snail sucks in a breath and mutters, oh fuck, there's two of them. This is your crew, Straw Hat, Fire Fist says and grins. It's been a while since I've seen them. The chatter from the snail abruptly stops. The snail stares, wide-eyed and silent. Then, hushed whispers and harsh tones break out. Is that Ace? There's no way. Ace died, remember. Straw Hat interrupts them. Ace came back to life. What? Yeah. Straw Hat grins and laughs, ignoring the shocked face of the snail. We don't know how. He appeared when I appeared. This world is really cool. There's another me. And another Ace. And all of you guys have other selves too. Except Brook isn't a skeleton and Chopper's a human and Frankie's not a cyborg and they don't have devil fruits. Yo ho ho ho. Brook's voice says from the snail. To have flesh again. I can't see it, though I don't have eyes to see with, which, Ace thinks, would actually be a funny joke if it isn't so terrifying knowing that there is an actual walking skeleton on the other side of the line. That sounds boring, Zoro's voice says. It's not boring, Nami says, disgruntled. It was perfectly fine and safe until this mess happened. The snail looks at her and snorts. Seems the witch is the same as always. Shut up. Both Namis shout and there's a crash on the other side of the line. The snail changes expressions again and other Nami's voice comes through, much more serious. Look, we don't have a lot of time. Convinced. The way she says convinced has Ace thinking that they did a lot more than simply asking, and Ace is once again reminded that his and his brother's double are not good people. Blackbeard's crew into opening this for us, but we couldn't send anything bigger than a Den Den and our connection isn't great. Listen, Luffy, you have to find Blackbeard as soon as you can, otherwise you'll be stuck in that world forever, you hear me? He took a devil fruit that allows to open and close portals to other worlds. He is the only one who can open and close those portals. It's not super. Frankie's voice comes through, echoing around the warehouse. There's a cling sound in the background, like two pieces of metal smashing together. Not super. Chopper's voice echoes, sounding much more high-pitched than the human Chopper. Ah, Zoro, you're injured. You shouldn't. Stop taking off your bandages. There's a crash and a sigh on the other side of the line. Zoro's protests are the only thing Ace can clearly make out until someone laughs mockingly. Shitty Muramo can't even keep his bandages on. What a joke. What was that swirls? There's a crash and some more shouts. Nami's voice takes over the Den Den Mushy once again, sounding furious. Stop interrupting me. Someone whimpers. Nami's scary. Straw Hat is still laughing so Ace figures he shouldn't be too concerned. But still, that was a pretty loud crash and there hasn't been any noise other than the pain groans and other Nami's shouts. He's almost about to comment on it. But Fire Fist shakes his head and mouths later. That's not all. Other Usopp says, taking advantage of the silence. Luffy, he can only open 2 portals per world and can only go to a different world once. He's already opened up 1 portal getting here, do you understand? But there's something tying him to that world. You have to find it. Blackbeard can't open the portal unless he's touching it, and when he does open the portal, you have to go through it. If you don't go through that portal when he opens it, even we can't get you back. Okay, you have to defeat him. Got it? Straw Hat says and grins. Don't worry, I'll kick his ass. We've already taken care of his crew, other Sanji says. All that's left is you, Captain. Their voices are getting weaker and the eyes of the snail are slowly dropping. Ace doesn't know why until Fire Fist mutters something about losing connection under his breath. Straw Hat apparently notices, too. Wait for me, I'll be back. It's a promise, he says. The snail can only get out, before falling asleep once again. Change of plans, Ace says and rounds the group to sit back at the table. The snail is sleeping peacefully on the smooth surface, completely undisturbed by the tense atmosphere around it. We have to find Blackbeard immediately. Can you two still fight? Even battered and covered in makeshift bandages, Straw Hat grins and holds up a fist. Of course. You guys, Ace says, addressing Luffy's friends, go home. Now, this is about to get bad. Luffy, you go with Marco and Thatch to their house. And what about you? Marco demands. I'm not leaving you, Ace. Luffy protests. I'll come eventually. Noticing Marco's look, Ace grins. Don't worry, I'm not going to fight or anything. I'm not that stupid. I'm just going to help these two figure out a plan. Be careful, Thatch says, eyes solemn. He glances at Fire Fist, eyes honing in on the burn scar that decorated his chest. We don't want. I know, Ace says. I promise, I'll be careful. Stay safe, Ace, Luffy says and gives him a hug. Ace hugs him back and looks at Marco and Thatch. He mouths keep him safe and they both nod. They herd Luffy and the rest of his friends away and Ace watches them retreat with a sigh. If this ends badly, he dies. But if he doesn't help, then Straw Hat and Fire Fist could very well be stuck here, in a world that isn't their own. They need to go home, and if fighting a supervillain is the only way to do that, then so be it. Where would he be? Ace asks, just to keep his mind off of everything. In the shadows, Fire Fist says, waiting for us to mess up because he's a coward. Then split up and find him, Ace says. You can cover more ground. That's what he wants, Straw Hat interrupts. He's staring at the snail longingly and Ace almost feels bad for him. If he messes up, then he never gets to see his crew again. He knows he can't take us together. Then what do we do? There is silence among the group of three, all thinking of the best way. Ace doesn't have as much knowledge on Blackbeard as they do, nor can he really fight. But someone from this world has to be there, just in case. There's two of you, Straw Hat says suddenly, grin in place. Fire Fist and Ace look at him in confusion, and Blackbeard doesn't think that both of you can fight. Ace can't fight, Fire Fist says. That's the whole point. But Blackbeard doesn't know the difference between you two. Fire Fist gaps for a second, like he understands. That's, since when do you plan? Straw Hat laughs at him, but Ace is just confused. So what if there were two of them? Ace couldn't fight. It didn't matter if Blackbeard can't tell the difference between the two of them or not. Explain, Ace asks. Blackbeard can't tell the difference between us, Fire Fist says with a grin. So what if we make him think we split up? If you act as a decoy, Blackbeard will go after you thinking that Straw Hat is somewhere else, but in reality we'll be following behind you, so when Blackbeard strikes, both of us can take him out. So I'm bait, Ace says. But how do we know that he'll go after you? I mean me. Because he thinks he can beat me again. Fire Fist grins, almost feral. Don't worry about it, we've got your back. For the record, Ace thinks this is a terrible plan. He's running down the streets like an idiot, hoping that a darkness-wielding supervillain will maybe come out and attack him. In hindsight, he probably should have gone with Marco and Thatch, and maybe then he wouldn't have been used as bait for two pirates that fell from the sky in his living room 2 weeks ago. Speaking of, he can't see the two pirates anywhere, and that does nothing to comfort him. Though if he could see them, then Blackbeard definitely could, which would ruin the entire plan in the first place. If he makes it out of here alive, Ace promises that he'll never complain about anything ever again. Even if Oyaji gives him too much paperwork or Thatch trashes his office in an attempt to prank him. Before he has too much time to think, Blackbeard melts out of the shadows. Ace tries really hard not to piss his pants. He's supposed to be acting like his double, and Ace is pretty sure his double doesn't piss his pants when he sees people come out of literal walls. He's supposed to be a strong pirate with a lot of pride and the ability to spontaneously combust, so he hides his fear and instead tries to look menacing. You, he barks out, hoping his voice doesn't shake. Looking for another fight, Fire Fist Ace, Blackbeard says in all of his backstabbing, murderous glory. It didn't end too well for you last time, I recall. Ace tenses, prepared to run. He needs Blackbeard to follow him out of the city, away from the people. So he curls his lip and bites out, traitor. Thatch had something I wanted, so I took it, Blackbeard says evenly, as if he were talking about the weather and not murdering Ace's best friend. His darkness swirls in the palm of his hand and Ace tries not to shit his pants. You're a piece of shit, Ace says and hopes it sounds convincing. And you're impossible to kill, Blackbeard retorts. He raises his hand, but before he can do anything, Ace sprints away. He can vaguely hear Blackbeard calling out to him, hurtling insults and trying to bait him back. He heads towards the forest, knowing there won't be many civilians there. He doesn't know if Blackbeard or the pirates are following, but hopes they are. He runs through the trees, expertly hopping over roots and rocks. He and Luffy used to do this all the time as kids. The forest is something he knows well. He can hear curses behind him and Ace grins, thinking he has the upper hand. His mistake is turning around. A root catches his foot and he's sent tumbling to the ground. Ace yelps as the plants tear at his clothes and bruise his knees. He turns on his back and not 4 seconds later, Blackbeard is standing over him with a sneer. Seems you've gotten weaker. Fuck you, Ace says loudly. At least that's something Ace doesn't have to act. Blackbeard stares at him for a moment before his hand snatches out and grabs Ace's face. He lifts Ace off the ground and stares into his eyes. Ace thrashes around, eyes wide but unable to escape. Now would be a really good time for Fire Fist and Straw Hat to appear and save his ass. Blackbeard's eyes widen. You're not the Fire Fist from my world. Something in the bushes behind Blackbeard moves and Ace stops struggling. A grin breaks out over his face because he has never been so happy to see a Straw Hat in his life. He grins, dirt in his teeth but no longer afraid. He spits in Blackbeard's face. Surprise, motherfucker. Hiken. Jet pistol. Blackbeard is sent into the trees and Ace drops to his knees. Straw Hat lands next to him. His skin is bright pink and steaming. And though Ace finds it a little weird, he doesn't comment. Straw Hat looks at him, then laughs and offers him a grin before leaping after Blackbeard faster than Ace can see. Fire Fist grins and watches him go before turning and offering a thumbs up and a smile. If we don't see you again, I just wanted to say thanks for everything. Kick his ass, Ace tells him. Fire Fist laughs and bounds into the brush after his brother. Ace stands to his feet, shakily. His heart is still racing and adrenaline is pumping through his body, but he feels lighter than he has in a long time, like a heavy burden has been lifted off his chest. The sounds of the battle were already echoing through the forest. But Ace stays, knowing he's safer. He hears insults being tossed, trees being crushed. He hopes his and Luffy's doubles are okay, but knows they're strong, stronger than Ace can even imagine. If they couldn't defeat the bastard, then there's no hope in this world. Marshall D. Teach is a tough motherfucker. Fire Fist knows this from personal experience. He can take a hit and has powerful attacks to back him up. From what Straw Hat was telling him, he could also command devil fruits that he's stolen, making a hard battle even harder. I underestimated you, Blackbeard says, wiping blood from his mouth. He still has damage from the earlier battle, if the bruises and cuts were anything to go by. Fire Fist knows Straw Hat's handiwork rather well. Straw Hat launches himself at the bastard, fist stretched in black. Fire Fist is following a second later, making sure that Blackbeard won't have time to disappear again. If they lose him now, Fire Fist doesn't know if they'll ever find him again. Hit after hit, Fire Fist is reminded of just how good it feels to fight alongside his brother. The last time they had this opportunity, it was on the battlefield. Fire Fist didn't have the time to appreciate it properly back then, too focused on leaving that godforsaken place. His little brother has gotten strong. Fire Fist doesn't know when he transitioned from a 7-year-old crybaby to one of the most notorious pirates of his time. But it's obvious now that Luffy doesn't need him like he used to. He thinks of the days when they were kids, running through the forest and beating up thugs that got in their way. It's nostalgic. And then Fire Fist thinks of his crew, Marco's smiles and Haruda's jokes. He thinks of sparring with Vista and working on his aim with Izo, pranking with Cruel and fighting side by side with Jazu. All the other commanders, all of their friendships and memories. He is so close to seeing them again. Right now, the only thing in the way of seeing them again is this piece of shit. Fine. Blackbeard spits as he picks himself up from yet another tree, breathing heavily and covered in burns. Fire Fist isn't much better and Straw Hat still has the damage from earlier to worry about. Fire Fist needs to end this battle, preferably as fast as he can. Blackbeard holds his hand and something white surrounds it. Fire Fist stops at the familiar feeling, staring. There was no way. Straw Hat yells a warning, but Fire Fist doesn't hear it. Blackbeard lunges, throwing his fist into Fire Fist's side. A crack resounds and the air itself splinters around him. He's thrown back and slams into a tree. Fire Fist's fire roars to life, but he just sits and stares in horror at the power that Blackbeard just displayed. The very thought makes his gut twist painfully. Fire Fist coughs up blood, but stumbles to his feet with seconds. Straw Hat is looking at him, worried, but Fire Fist can't bring himself to care. That power, which had been used to protect him, to protect the crew, is now being used against them. That's Oyaji's fruit, Fire Fist says, eyes wide. Blackbeard grins and suddenly Fire Fist's surprise is gone. Instead, white-hot fury takes over. The blood rushes to his head and Fire Fist roars. That I sent something for you to use. Fire Fist lunges, his element engulfing half of the forest in his anger. He hears someone yelling, but pays it no mind. All he can see is Blackbeard, Thatch's body, all the looks of horror on his crewmates' faces when they realized that Teach betrayed them all. This is for Thatch and Oyaji. Fire Fist snarls, sending a tower of flames right at the bastard. He hears Blackbeard yell in surprise as an explosion rocks the surrounding area. Fire Fist lands on the ground, his ears still ringing. He lifts his hands and stares at them. His body feels so heavy. You sure you don't want the 2nd Division commander position? You've been here longer than I have. It's fine, don't worry about it. I don't have that kind of ambition anyways. Go ahead, Commander Ace. Ace, Fire Fist cries out as he's blasted back. The only thing that saves him from a harsh impact is a pair of rubber arms pulling him back. Fire Fist blinks, clearing his head. He looks up at his little brother who is staring at him, eyes wide. Blackbeard is back on his feet but no longer smiling. He looks more furious than Fire Fist has ever seen him, eyes as dark as the powers his fruit gives him. If Fire Fist was a lesser person, he would have been scared. Fire Fist is not a lesser person. Are you okay? Straw Hat asks. Fire Fist nods, but it's a bold-faced lie. He feels terrible, and it's not just his body that's screaming at him to stop anymore. I'm stronger than I was last time, Commander Ace, Blackbeard says, voice cold. Straw Hat snarls at him, fists raised and ready to attack. 2 years have passed. Ace, Straw Hat says quietly. Fire Fist looks at him and Straw Hat turns to give him a grin. Covered in wounds and blood, his brother still manages to have the same smile as always. Remember, we can't defeat him by ourselves. Together then. Together. Ace doesn't expect to see his double again. They're going to beat Blackbeard and be sent home. There isn't any time for goodbyes. So Ace is very surprised when he walks into the forest after the sounds of the battle fade explosions. Really, could they be any less obvious? Only to see 2 figures standing over a beaten and charred body. I thought you were supposed to go home if you beat him, Ace says, because he really can't think of anything else to say. Fire Fist and Straw Hat give him identical looks of uncertainty. We did beat him, Fire Fist says hesitantly. He glances down at Blackbeard and kicks the body. Blackbeard groans. Why aren't we going back? Of course it's not that simple. Ace groans and shoves his face in his hands. Their only theory on how to get back was wrong and Ace doesn't know what to do anymore. Maybe Blackbeard isn't what's keeping us here, Straw Hat says suddenly. When Ace and Fire Fist look at him, he grins. My Nakama said that there's something tying us to this world, right? They said that Blackbeard can't open the portal unless he's touching it. Fire Fist agrees. I assumed he already had it, but if it's not Blackbeard that's keeping you here, then what is it? The 3 stand in silence, surrounded by the wreckage of the forest. Ace doesn't know what to do. They thought that they understood how to get the pirates home, but apparently that plan didn't work. Now they have 2 beat-up pirates and an unconscious asshole. Oh, I get it, Fire Fist says suddenly and grins. It's not a what but a who. Who? Ace asks. This is a parallel world, right? Fire Fist laughs. So far, everyone from my world has a double here too. So that means Blackbeard does as well. Blackbeard can't have anything tying him to this world because he's never been here before, but his double on the other hand. Straw Hat groans and flops on the ground. For someone who has beat Black and Blue, he was still pretty damn lively. This is too complicated. I want to go home. And I'm hungry. You're saying that Blackbeard's double is keeping him here, Ace says. He probably doesn't even know he's doing it. Fire Fist agrees. But if we get the 2 of them together, we should be able to go home. Are you sure about this? Fire Fist and Straw Hat look at each other before grinning. Nope. But it's the only plan we have, Fire Fist says. Okay, great. Fine. Whatever. Looks like we're searching for bastard number 2 now. Ace knocks on the door of Marco's home. 2 pirates and an unconscious body in tow tied up in as many chains as Ace could buy. Thatch throws open the door a second later, hones in on Ace and throws his arms around him with a happy cry. Ace. There's a thump from inside the house and suddenly both Ace and Thatch are tackled to the ground by 140 pounds of overexcited little brother. Luffy is cheering, switching between sobs and smiles and hanging on Ace's back like the monkey he is. When Thatch finally lets him go, he sees the pirates and Blackbeard for the first time. Why are you guys still here? And, holy shit, is that Blackbeard? Fire Fist grins and holds up Blackbeard's beaten and chained body. Thatch visibly leans back while Ace has to stop Luffy from poking it. Turns out we need his double too. Dunno where he is though, Ace explains. Come in, I guess. Marco's in the living room. Thatch says as he eyes the body wearily. Straw Hat rushes in, dragging his double with him before anyone else can say anything. Fire Fist follows at a more leisurely pace, dropping Blackbeard in the entranceway before following his brother. Thatch glances at Ace as he shuts the door and tiptoes around Blackbeard as much as he can. You sure he's not going to wake up? Thatch squeaks. Ask Fire Fist or Straw Hat, Ace says. He's pretty sure the bastard isn't going to wake up. But then again, the people from their pirate world could easily take a beating that can kill a person in this world. Ace enters the living room and waves at Marco, who is lounging on the couch. He, at least, doesn't seem too surprised about the pirates still being in their world. Marco doesn't know where Blackbeard's double is either. Firefist says when Ace takes a seat next to Marco. Pops might, Thatch says, and Marco gives him a weird look. Pops, Firefist mutters. He clenches his fists. Isn't he a shipbuilder in this world? Why would he know? Pops knows his way around this town better than anyone, Marco says and sighs. I hate to admit that Thatch might be right, but if anyone knows where he is, then it's Pops. Then let's go, Straw Hat says and springs from the couch, only for Ace to yank him back down. The pirate pouts, crossing his arms over his chest. Tomorrow, Ace says, because today has been a long day. His brother was attacked. Half the forest outside their town was burned down. He still has to call the police and give statements about both his house and his car, and the pirates are still there. Reluctantly, both pirates agree. Pull your hoodie down more, Marco hisses at Straw Hat as they make their way through the bustling shipyard. Several people have come up to greet Marco, but he tries to make the conversation as short as possible. He's already had people ask who the two people he'd brought with him are and doesn't need to start any more rumors than necessary. Thatch is behind them, bringing up the rear. He glances at everyone, trying to dissuade them from asking about the newcomers. After all, it wasn't often they brought people that didn't work there to the shipyard. The last time it happened, it had been Ace. Speaking of Ace, he had been left at Marco's house with Luffy, partially because he wanted to make sure Luffy and Luffy's friends are okay, partially because he's still dealing with his house and his car, but mostly because he's supposed to watch Blackbeard and make sure he doesn't wake up. This way, Marco says, and pulls the two pirates towards Edward Newgate's office. Marco distinctly hears Firefist muttering names of some of the workers under his breath as they pass them. He glances at his friend's double and wonders if it was a good idea to bring him here in the first place. Well, he doesn't really have much of a choice anymore. Thatch raps his knuckles on Newgate's door. Pops, we have a question. Come in, Pops's voice booms. Thatch opens the door while Marco shoos the two pirates inside. Inside is dark, the only light coming from the lamp on Pops's desk and whatever streams through the windows. They can still hear the shouts of the men as they work on various projects. Every once in a while, a flash appears as someone rushes past the office. Pops is looking at the two pirates with thinly veiled interest, and Marco prays that neither of them are dumb enough to take off their disguises. Pops would know right away. Oyanji. Marco hears Firefist suck in a breath, his fists clenching and unclenching. Marco doesn't know his story, but figures that something must have happened between the two of them for Firefist to act like this. So this is this world's mustache old man, Straw Hat mutters, luckily quiet enough that only Marco and Firefist could hear. He's smaller. Firefist elbows him before Marco can. Be respectful, Firefist hisses. Pops, we're in a bit of a situation. Thatch rubs the back of his head sheepishly and Marco tries not to scoff because situation was an understatement of the century. Thatch gestures to the hooded Firefist and Straw Hat. These are our, friends. Do you need any help? Pops asks, and his eyes sparkle with a kindness that Marco has never seen in anyone. Marco can never repay the man for all he's done for him and his friends and knows that even if he told him, he would offer unconditional support, but this is something he doesn't want him or any of his co-workers with. Pops glances at the two pirates for a fraction of a second and Marco knows he just has to say a word and they would be out of his life forever. It's tempting, but Marco has become kind of attached to the both of them and their strange quirks. He promised he would help them get home and planned on staying true to that promise. No, Marco says. Don't worry, we've almost got it figured out. We think, he adds in his head. We want to know if you have any information regarding the whereabouts of Marshal D. Teach, Thatch says slowly. Pops leans back in his chair, looking at the two of them. Marshal D. Teach, does he have something to do with your situation? It's complicated, Marco says and tries not to sigh. He's in jail, Pops answers, but he still seems concerned. Marco tries for a reassuring smile, but is not happy on the inside. If Teach is in jail, that only meant that he'll be harder to get to without anyone seeing and it'll be impossible to bring him back to Blackbeard. Marco hears Thatch bitterly mutter, of course he is, under his breath. Which jail? Marco asks, because at the very least maybe they could talk to him. Are you sure you don't need help? Pops asks and Marco shakes his head. He's an impel down. Firefist starts coughing while Straw Hat sucks in a breath. Seems these two have had experience with the place. Where else would it be? Firefist practically hisses. The universe hates me. Pops is staring at both of the pirates now with an emotion that Marco can't quite describe. Marco bites his lip before deciding that they had enough information. There was no reason to stay here longer than they needed to. Marco catches Thatch's eye and nods towards the door. Thanks, Pops. We'll be going now. Marco nudges Firefist and grabs his arm. Thatch is leading Straw Hat by the back of his hoodie. Marco can feel Pops's worried eyes on his back, but he doesn't turn around. Before he closes the door, Pops says, "Stay safe, my sons." When the door swings shut, Marco lets out a breath of air he doesn't remember holding. Firefist is surprisingly limp as Marco lets him go, but Marco doesn't worry about it too much for the time being. Well, at least neither of them were discovered. Fire Fist doesn't speak at all as Thatch and Marco lead them around the shipyard. He lets Marco drag him around without any resistance, eyes on the ground. It's a stark contrast from the hot-headed, curious, loudmouth that he's shown himself to be. Straw Hat notices it too if the concerned glances were anything to go by. After they finally reach Marco's car, Fire Fist curls up by the window, face pale. Marco eyes him as he climbs in the driver's seat before his worry gets the better of him and he turns around to the back seat. What is wrong with you? Thatch looks up in surprise from the passenger side, but Fire Fist just seems to curl up more. It's my fault. What, exactly, is your fault? Thatch asks. Straw Hat is shaking his head in the background, but Marco had to know. What causes this ace to act so different from Marco's best friend? What has he gone through? Everything, Fire Fist says and goes quiet once again. All of them here are happy here. No one is dead. Stop that. Straw Hat snaps before Marco can respond. It's not your fault. It is. I was the one that got captured. They went to war for me. They're your nakama. Of course they did. They should and have. Fire Fist suddenly explodes, voice hurt and angry. Marco suddenly decides that prying was a bad idea if Fire Fist's stricken face was anything to go by. Because of me so many are dead. Pops is dead. And I. Shut up. Straw Hat snaps right back. You're always talking like this, Ace. I hate it. Your dad is not your fault. The war is not your fault. Mustache Austin gave his life to save you because he wanted to. He's a pirate. He's free to do whatever he wanted. And he wanted you to live. I want you to live. Luffy, Straw Hat huffs, crossing his arms over his chest and turning away from his brother. Stop saying such stupid stuff. Marco feels like he's intruding, but Fire Fist looks better than he did before. Wide-eyed, he glances at Thatch, who shrugs. After a few minutes of silence, Thatch hesitantly speaks up. Okay, what are we going to do about Teach? Neither Straw Hat nor Fire Fist answer, too wrapped up in their own thoughts. Marco sighs and says, we'll see if we can talk to him first. Then we'll figure it out from there. You're going to what? Ace shouts the moment they all finish explaining what happened on the shipyard. That wasn't a part of the plan, Thatch hisses, but looks resigned. Ace just wants to punch something because leave it to the pirates to make everything complicated. We are going to break into Impel Down. Fire Fist says like he is talking about the weather and not talking about breaking into the highest security prison in the entire state. Grab Blackbeard's double, bring him here and then go home. Seeing their faces, Straw Hat grins. I've already broken into Impel Down before. Don't worry, that is not what I'm worried about. Ace wants to cry out in frustration. It's so hard to explain to criminals why being a criminal is actually bad in this world. Then what are you worried about? We have the same face, Ace tells them. He's a bit hysteric at this point, but it's been a rough 2 weeks and honestly he doesn't care anymore. If someone sees you or Straw Hat, they'll go after me and Luffy. You're going to make us wanted. That's good, Straw Hat says with a grin. No, it's not, Ace snaps right back. We're going no matter what. You guys stay here, Fire Fist says. We won't let anyone see us. No one is going to get caught. Marco scoffs and Fire Fist turns to pout at him. You wouldn't know stealth if it punched you in the face. Thatch says and Ace is very inclined to agree. Luffy nods from his spot on the floor. We can be sneaky when we want to be, Fire Fist protests. Ace buries his face in his hands. Oh god, I'm going to be a wanted man for crimes I didn't even commit. Breaking into Impel Down is surprisingly easy. All Fire Fist and Straw Hat have to do is hop a few fences and sneak in the building. Fire Fist nabs some security guards tag and bam, they're inside. The easiest way would have been to burn a hole in the side of the building, but Fire Fist figures that Ace would not appreciate that. This Impel Down is different. There isn't a pot of boiling water to dunk their prisoners in. There aren't any levels of hell, no beast guards and no poisonous warden. All they have is a large facility and some guards with guns. It's almost a joke. Locating Teach is almost as easy as sneaking in. He isn't hard to miss. Big man, bushy hair, wearing clothes covered in black and white stripes. He's chowing down on prison food and chatting with the others around him. You, Straw Hat launches himself at the man before Fire Fist can even come up with a plan. Rubber arms wrapping around his torso several times. Blackbeard's double yelps and squirms. But Straw Hat easily lifts him over his head. Lou, Fire Fist goes to say, but stops and stares as people start to notice that his arm actually stretched. The cafeteria is complete chaos in mere moments. Straw Hat jumps over the tables as the guards rush forward, guns raised. Alarms blare to life and all the prisoners are sent into a state of panic. Fire Fist tries not to sigh because, really, Straw Hat could have handled that better. Let me go. Teach shouts, still squirming in Straw Hat's arm. Straw Hat looks at him and frowns, shaking him harder than is necessary. Release the prisoner and put your hands in the air, one of the guards shouts. Straw Hat barely looks at him. Well shoot, now would be a good time to leave, Fire Fist says and Straw Hat laughs. Several guards turn toward him, guns raised and safety off. Fire Fist doesn't even flinch because, guns, really? They're going to need a whole lot more than that if they wanted to catch the two of them. Don't move. Let's go, Straw Hat says, all grins despite the fact that he has a man squirming in his grasp. He jumps off the table and rushes past the guards. Fire Fist takes off after him, but not after sticking his tongue out at the guards. Bullets come at them from behind, but neither even glance back. The bullets pass through Fire Fist harmlessly, hurting no worse than a tickle, while Straw Hat sends them back towards the guards with more force than they had originally. They're monsters. Fire Fist rushes down the halls, laughing. This is the most fun he's had in months. Between Thatch's death and hunting down Blackbeard, Fire never really had time to relax and be himself. Now, Blackbeard is defeated. He doesn't have to worry about being caught, and he's causing chaos with his little brother. It's just like old times, back when they were just little kids who ruled Grey Terminal. Stop them. Guards come flooding in the halls and Fire Fist skids to a stop, Straw Hat right behind him. They raise their guns, prepared to shoot. Fire Fist grins and Straw Hat laughs. Looks like we're going to have to take a shortcut, Fire Fist says before blasting a giant hole through the wall. All the guards gasp and Fire Fist uses the distraction to slip away. As Fire Fist jumps the second fence that surrounds the prison, he glances back. There's smoke coming from a hole in the side. Sirens wail and dogs bark. People are out, running around with guns. Fire Fist can hear more sirens in the distance. Stealthy indeed, Fire Fist thinks before shrugging. Hopefully Ace won't be too mad. Breaking news. Reports are flooding in of another attack on Impel Down. Police are still investigating who or what might have caused this. So far, no suspects have been named. However, Ace stares at the TV in horror. Beside him, Thatch snakes his head and Marco sighs. Luffy is laughing, the only one enjoying watching the news at the moment. Seems they were right. The pirates can't go a single goddamn place without destroying something. We're back, a voice shouts and Ace turns, glaring. Fire Fist enters the living room, no worse for wear. He looks like he just went out for a simple evening stroll and didn't just destroy a world-renowned prison. And we got Teach. Straw Hat bounds in after him, rubber arms wrapped around the unconscious form of Marshal D. Teach. Ace would almost feel pity for the man if he hadn't had the same face as the bastard that attacked his brother. The TV is still blaring in the background and Ace points at it furiously. Is that your definition of sneaky? Straw Hat glances at it before grinning and rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. He drops Teach on the living room floor and his arms snap back to normal proportions. Oops, no one saw us, Fire Fist says quickly before muttering. It's not like these guys can track us down anyways. Right, Thatch says. He looks at the form of Marshal D. Teach and sighs. So now we have two unconscious people in this house. What do we do? Usopp said that if we want to go home, Straw Hat says. Then Blackbeard and whatever is holding him here have to be touching, so just put him on top of Blackbeard and maybe that'll work, Thatch suggests. Fire Fist looks around the room in confusion. Where is Blackbeard anyways? He wasn't in the entrance hallway. We were not just going to leave a body in the hallway, Marco hisses and pinches the bridge of his nose. He locked him in the bathroom. He should be in there. Thatch goes to grab Blackbeard, giving a wide girth to Teach, who lays on the ground motionless. Ace catches Fire Fist looking at him with both hatred and hope. He misses his family, Ace realizes, and he's so close to seeing them again. Ace places a hand on his double's shoulder and smiles. Soon Fire Fist agrees. They gather Blackbeard and his double in the living room after moving the coffee table out of the way. The two bodies lay side by side, close but not quite touching. Ace stares at them. Fire Fist glances at Ace, biting his lip. What if this doesn't work? He's scared, Ace realizes. Scared that if this doesn't work, then nothing else will. Blackbeard is going to wake up eventually. Will they just have to keep fighting him? Are they really trapped here? Marco comes, placing a comforting hand on Fire Fist's shoulder. Then we keep searching. You two can stay here as long as you need. We'll be sure to keep you out of trouble. Thatch grins. Luffy laughs. This has been fun. Okay, Fire Fist says and takes a deep breath. He grabs Teach's body before easily moving it closer and closer and closer. When the two bodies touch, the room explodes in color. Ace is sent flying back into the wall and he gasps when his spine slams into it. Pain races up his back and Ace gasps, closing his eyes. He hears someone else yell, glass breaking. There is a force so strong that Ace can't breathe. He's gasping and gasping. As soon as the explosion appears, it vanishes. Ace forces his eyes open and coughs. He sits up and tries to ignore how much his back protests at the action. He goes to sit up, and there, in the middle of the living room, instead of Blackbeard and his double, is a giant white sphere. Everyone okay? Marco calls out. There are various yeses that ring out in the room as everyone finds their footing again. What is that? Thatch asks as he notices the glowing object. Now that Ace is a little more coherent, he can see that there's not one but two spheres. One surrounds the other like a barrier. The one in the center is about 8 feet tall and a milky white color. It shifts and moves, and every once in a while, a splash of color appears and vanishes. It glows and hums with such power that Ace immediately decides that he is going nowhere near it. That's the portal for sure. There's nothing else it could be. The colors and flashes show what's happening in the other world. The world full of pirates and superpowers and superhumans. The second sphere, while larger, doesn't have the same feeling of power coming from it. It's translucent in color and flows like the ocean, not keeping a perfect shape. It glows like the other portal, but that's not all. Ace recognizes it as the same thing their car collided with all that time ago when this whole mess started. It worked, Fire Fist says. He sounds surprised. We can go home. Yes, Straw Hat launches himself through the barrier with no problem. He stops just before touching the portal and grins brighter than Ace has ever seen him. When he notices Fire Fist doesn't follow, he tilts his head and turns. Fire Fist still hasn't moved from his spot, staring at the portal with an emotion that Ace can't identify. His fists are clenched firmly at his side, so hard that his knuckles are turning white. Why are you hesitating? Ace asks. Fire Fist sucks in a breath. 2 years is a long time. What if they don't? Oh, that's right. Fire Fist's family still doesn't know he's alive. From what Ace remembers about the war, everyone fought so hard to save him, but in the end, thank you for loving me. In the end, here he is, alive. 2 years might be a long time, but his family would wait for him for eternity. Thatch comes up behind Fire Fist and pushes him towards the barrier with a smile. Fire Fist stumbles, looking back with confusion written all over his face. Thatch offers up his biggest grin. Get going, you idiot. They're your family, Marco says and gives Fire Fist a soft smile. Ace catches Marco's eye and smiles at him. Then they won't care if it's been 2 years or 100. Come visit us again. Luffy cheers and throws his hands up in a wave. Next time we'll have more adventures. Take care, Ace says in his own form of goodbye. His double grins while Straw Hat laughs and waves back. Try not to die again. Yeah, Fire Fist says, but he's no longer looking at Ace. He's staring ahead at the daunting barrier. I'll try. Straw Hat hops from inside the barrier, looking at the portal nervously. AC, Fire Fist, come on, we don't have a lot of time. He's right. The barrier is already starting to fade and the portal is getting smaller and smaller. Instead of 8 feet tall, it's now down to 7 and shrinking by the minute. White sparks are dancing around the living room, casting shadows on the white walls. The portal is closing, and soon it wouldn't be there anymore. Fire Fist grins and waves at all 4 of them before going to take a step through the barrier, only to stop. Ace scrunches up his eyebrows, wondering why he hasn't gone to the portal yet, only for Fire Fist to put both of his hands on the barrier and push. With a start, Ace realizes the barrier is solid. It won't let me, Fire Fist mutters, and his words sound horrified. The portal is down to 6 feet tall now, and Straw Hat is staring at his brother with panic written all over his face. Fire Fist tries to push through again, using all of his body weight, but the barrier won't budge. It's then that Ace realizes Fire Fist can't go back because he was never meant to go back in the first place. Fire Fist keeps trying to get through, but nothing was working. He tries his devil fruit, his own body, his fists, his legs. Ace tries to push him through, but nothing's working. He can't get through the barrier. Eventually, Fire Fist screams and bangs both fists on the barrier in frustration. Damn it. Ace, what are you doing? Straw Hat shouts at him, glancing between Fire Fist and the portal. I am so sorry, Fire Fist says, and his voice is barely above a whisper. I can't go back with you, Luffy. Straw Hat is staring at him like his world just shattered. He jumps away from the portal and easily passes through the barrier. He tries tugging Fire Fist through, but the barrier remains solid. You promised. Straw Hat shouts at him and continues to try and tug his brother through. Ace wishes he never had to see that expression on Luffy's face, no matter what version. Fire Fist is smiling as he pushes Straw Hat off of him and towards the portal. Straw Hat stumbles back enough that he falls on his butt, looking up at Fire Fist with terrified eyes. Sorry, Luffy, but it looks like I'm going to have to break that promise. You have to come back. Straw Hat scrambles to his feet to try and tug his brother through the barrier once again. Fire Fist shrugs him off and gives him a weak smile, tears in his eyes. Straw Hat tries to run through the barrier once again, but the barrier seems to have enough and turns solid before he can leave. Straw Hat crashes into the side, tears rolling down his face. Fire Fist backs up and Ace tries not to cry. For all their differences, they are still the same people. And right now, Ace is losing his brother. You have to go back. Your Nakama are waiting for you, Fire Fist says and furiously tries to scrub the tears from his eyes. Straw Hat hasn't stopped banging on the barrier, throwing himself at it with all the force he can muster. Come with me, Straw Hat shouts. We can find a way. We just need more time. We don't have time, Fire Fist shouts back. The portal is closing, you have to go. I can't lose you again. The portal is down to 4 feet now, swirling out of control. Ace knows it's only a matter of time before it closes completely, and apparently Straw Hat realizes it too before he looks at the portal, his entire body shaking. I'm so sorry, Fire Fist says as he sinks to the ground. There are tears in his eyes and Fire Fist covers his face with his hand. Please, Luffy, go. If nothing else, go for me. Straw Hat stops banging on the barrier and sobs. His entire body shakes with such emotion, longing, hurt. Then, he glances at the portal before pushing himself to his feet and staring at Fire Fist with grim determination. Wait for me, Ace. I promise I'll find a way to get you home. Straw Hat jumps through the portal just before it closes and everything disappears in a flash of light. Ace is left with a sobbing Fire Fist while Marco, Thatch and Luffy just looked on with horror in their eyes. Suddenly Fire Fist stands up, wiping the tears from his eyes. He looks at the spot where Straw Hat disappears and whispers, "You better." 2 years go by. Ace has long gotten used to the presence of Portgas just as Portgas is used to the modern world. Of course, there are still slip-ups, and sometimes Portgas forgets that he shouldn't turn into fire, but overall it works out. Luffy's friends come over every so often and help out. A fake ID and a haircut help a lot, too. Sometimes Ace forgets about the terrifying whirlwind that happened 2 years ago, and then he walks into his living room and sees Portgas helping his little brother with his homework. Ace thinks of the promise that Straw Hat made and shakes his head. 2 years is a long time, after all, and no matter how much Portgas protests, he can tell that the former pirate is losing hope. Sometimes Ace catches Portgas staring at walls or at the stars, lost in memories. Sometimes he catches the surprised flashes when he goes to grab Luffy's cheek, only to realize it isn't rubber anymore. Sometimes he hears the tears at night, after everyone else is asleep. For Portgas' sake, Ace hopes Straw Hat comes back soon. It was a regular day when it happened. Ace is prepping dinner for the 5 of them. Luffy yelling happily about his favorite character on TV while Portgas echoes and encourages him. Thatch is chatting happily to Marco about work and terrible customers. That's when Ace feels it. At first it's only his ears popping. It makes him pause the meal and frown. Then a crushing force blasts through his house and an oh-so-bright light appears. Ace promptly drops his spatula and rushes into the living room. There, just like that night 2 years ago, was a large, white sphere. Portal. Oh God, there's another portal in our living room, Thatch says and stares at the object with wide eyes. That's... Portgas' eyes were wide and hopeful. Luffy grins and throws his hands around Portgas' neck in his excitement. The portal is different than last time. It's still large with the milky color, but the flashes of color appeared more often and it was only 3 of them, yellow, red and blue. And, Ace thinks, there's no barrier. A red spot appears near the top and spreads downward. It snakes around the milky surface, forming something. Ace squints before his eyes widen. It's forming a silhouette. The silhouette gets larger and larger before something steps out of the portal. The portal flares to life and hums with power. Ace is so surprised that he takes a step back. A grin, a large scar, a red cardigan, and a familiar straw hat. Straw Hat laughs, full of excitement and joy, and straight up launches himself across the room the moment he spots Portgas with a cry of, "Ace." Portgas takes the blow full force and both of them tumble to the ground, laughing and blubbering indistinguishable words. Ace laughs, happy and free, knowing that his double was finally getting the ending that he deserves. "Boy," a voice calls and Ace turns towards it until he realizes it's coming from the portal. "You sure about this, Luffy?" Straw Hat pauses, looking up and rubs the tears from his eyes. He rolled off of Portgas and stands up, placing his prized straw hat right back on its head where it belongs. His smile returns full force and he shouts back, "Yeah, it works. He's here." Another spot appears, this time blue, and the outline of a person forms yet again. This time, Ace blinks a bit in surprise because it's Marco stepping out of the portal, a blue cardigan and sandals on his feet carrying a large, brown sack of something. The other Marco drops the sack on the floor with a loud clang. Eyes scan the room before landing on himself. So this really is an alternate dimension, yoy. Another Marco, Luffy says happily. Marco, Thatch shouts in surprise. Even Ace's Marco seems shocked by the development. Other Marco turns his attention to Thatch and his eyes widen. He takes a step back. Everything, from his posture to his very eyes, screams hurt. Ace wonders why he is so sad and, oh, that's right, their Thatch was murdered. It's not something that they talk about often as Portgas is reluctant to mention it, but the fact always nags at the back of his mind. Thatch, other Marco mutters. Marco, Portgas cries out happily and stumbles to his feet, straw hat hanging from his back. Other Marco turns, and suddenly has an armful of 2 pirates with identical expressions of pure joy. Other Marco catches both of them before grabbing Portgas' shoulders and pushing him to arm's length. Other Marco examines him, his eyes resting on the large burn scar on his chest. He reaches out and traces the edges, expression unreadable. Portgas smiles sadly, but pushes his hand away. "Told you I'd come back," Straw Hat suddenly crows. "It took a while, but we did it." Other Marco gathers Portgas into a tight hug, shutting his eyes shut and letting out a wet-sounding laugh full of pure joy. When Luffy said you were alive, we didn't believe it at first. He convinced us eventually, and God, Ace, it was the best news I think I've ever heard. Yoy, I'm so glad you're alive. Marco, Porcus whispers, tears in his eyes, before hugging the man back. The past 2 years, they'd tried to give Porcus a family. They'd welcomed him to the shipyard, took him out to explore their world. They included him in everything they did or were planning on doing. They gave his friends, made him go out and to try and enjoy himself. But seeing this, the pure, unrivaled happiness of a family being reunited for the first time, Ace knows they didn't ever do enough. They never could. It's okay, though, because Porcus has his family once again. How? Porcus chokes out, releasing other Marco from his death grip. Devil fruit, Straw Hat declares happily. Blackbeard was executed by the Marines 2 years ago. All the devil fruits that he had were released back in the world. Yoy. Other Marco nods. We managed to track down Oyeji's old fruit in the Yami Yami no Mai so that no one can ever have that power again. The fruit that sent you here. This super cool old man had it. Straw Hat interrupts. Other Marco nods. Luffy and his crew manage miracles. Still haven't quite figured out how, but they saved this man's village and he said he was in their debt. We found out he had the fruit that sent you two here in the first place and, well, here we are, yoy. You actually say yoy, Thatch mutters, amazed. Marco elbows him in the ribs and tells him to shut up. Other Marco's gaze lingers on him before he forces himself to turn away. He walks back over to the brown sack that he had carried from the portal and hauls it over his shoulder. He walks towards Ace and drops it right in front of him. When other Marco opens the sack, all Ace can do is stare because shoved inside that ragged old sack is probably thousands, if not millions of dollars in gold and jewels. These are for you, other Marco says as if he's not handing over more money than Ace has ever seen in his lifetime. For keeping those two idiots safe, yoy. Ace thinks he might cry in happiness. Hey, Marco, Straw Hat shouts. He's hanging from his brother's back again and pointing at the portal. It's closing again. We gotta go. You're right, other Marco says and just leaves millions of dollars in Ace's living room. Holy shit. Other Marco glances back at the four of them, Ace, Luffy, Thatch, Marco, and gives them a smile. Thank you so much for looking after Ace. He's a pain in the ass and gives us gray hairs. But he's our little brother. Other Marco's eyes become softer, sadder. And Thatch ... It was nice to see you again, yoy. We miss you. Bye. Straw Hat shouts and waves. Come visit our world sometime. Okay. Luffy shouts back and Ace has to physically restrain his little brother from jumping through the portal with them. Ace catches Porcus's eye and grins. Get going. Porcus laughs and adjusts Straw Hat on his back. I am. Thank you for everything. All of you. With that, the three of them step through the portal and disappear. And, with a happy smile, Porcus finally returns home. There are a few places that reality seems to bend. Playground at night. Empty schools, the second level of double-decker buses, hospital waiting rooms, dimly lit roads that lead to home, and, apparently, quiet living rooms that hold lasting memories. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.